and some of the workspace and Alex.
That's key.
He worked with me.
No, he's having a rough one.
Actually, I should thank you. I'm going there next month.
Yeah, he was diving for this. Up until he decided to pull the six. Sorry, one. Hey, but
Guys,
guys.
not and he gets yeah, you couldn't even do that. It's good flat on it. Like you just foggy.
There's extra chairs back here if anyone needs.
I think he figured it out. It's good.
That's a long way.
All people. All right, guys. We'll give you guys 2 minutes to come in.
Brennan, you have a seat right there.
Oh. Okay, it's 4:32, so I think it's time to get this meeting of the Shellfish Advisory Panel underway. Before we start, I just want to I have most people, but is Cam Ennis here? No, okay. Jeff Gardner, Mike McGivney.
Here.
Richard Pastor, absent. Jerry Shy.
He said he's gonna be late.
Okay. Chris Ferry. No, Ed Triano.
Here.
Okay. Okay. So, we will get this meeting going. Here we have some quick, this meeting is, also has a Zoom component. So if anyone online has any comments, they can use the raise hand function. Here is the agenda. Does anyone have any questions about the agenda? Okay, so we'll start with the aquaculture presentation from Saltbox Sea Farm. Tonight, we don't have Ben to give an overview, but the applicants are here to just to explain their proposal and their application. So,
well, bear with me. I've got a fresh broken leg in a surgery, but I'll hop up here so I can help point some things out. So I'm Matt Griffin. I own Saltbox Sea Farm. I've been growing shellfish in Rhode Island for since 2004. 13 years of that was non-commercial, so been growing commercially since 2016. We have a 1 acre lease in Secana River, and we currently have a 4 acre lease here, which is this block just south of Rome Point. We use floating gear in that lease. You know, the bigger oyster cages, they sit about 8 inches above quiescent water. Both of our leases currently are 100% full, and our market demand is outstripping the product we have available. So what we're proposing is a 3.8 acre expansion to add to this, so that bring our total up to 7.8 acres, which if you look at a lot of the companies in Rhode Island that are making a good go at it, falling somewhere around that 8 acres is pretty necessary to keep people employed year round. So what this entails really is a 220-foot northward expansion from our east boundary, a 750-foot expansion heading west. We're proposing to use the exact same gear we have in our current lease. So we'll be putting in, we would like to put in long lines that are 180 feet each, along the north-south axis every 20 feet. So it would be 38 long lines from east to west with 12 cages in each long line. That'd be about 456 cages. In terms of proximity to the shore, our current lease is about 512 feet to the shoreline. This is the Chafee Preserve. The proposed lease is 705 feet or so. It's about 207 feet to the west, or sorry, to the eastward to type 2 waters. Now, we do recognize that, you know, this can be an area of recreation in the summer. You know, we get boats in here anchoring, and this has a 25-year, you know, history of aquaculture. So the cumulative impact can make it kind of confusing for boat traffic to come through. If we put this lease in, that leaves 161 feet of clear navigable water to our north and 248 feet to the south. Now, the folks like you who are used to being on the water, that's no problem, but you know, I have heard from a few people, how do I get through here? We don't know if there's anything strong in between the leases. We don't really know what we're looking at. So we're proposing to fund and install ourselves in coordination with the Coast Guard, a simple navigation channel to the south of us. And we've talked to the owner of this lease here. We've gotten verbal approval from North Kingstown Harbor Commission in the Harbor Master. So this would be through the Coast Guard patent system. We've registered in their system. They would just need our final lat lawns of the navigation channel, which would be in coordination with these growers and the North Kingstown Harbor Commission. We're proposing to grow oysters, which we're currently growing, scallops and kelp. Those would be kind of secondary crops. And that's sort of what we have proposed. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
I have a question.
Sure.
Are you gonna be prohibited from putting in cohogs down the road? Or could you decide at any time during your lease that you wanna do aquaculture cohogs to compete with us diggers out there?
Yeah, that's a good question. As the proposal is written, we do not have permission to do that. We would have to go back to the state, and we don't have interest in that. So growing cohogs in an aquaculture setting, you really need to be in intertidal waters. Which, you know, we have 20
Is
feet.
that all oysters? All those guys are all oysters? No cohogs?
All these are oysters. And back before I was working commercially, I worked in the, you know, the academic realm, and we tried growing oysters in cohogs in suspended bags with other sediments. It doesn't work. So that's, no, because I don't think we could.
I came from Cedar Key, Florida, so I know all about aquaculture cohogs.
Right.
On the bottom with the bags.
Want to be able to walk around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
So it's all oysters.
All oysters. We do want to play around with face scallops and maybe a little kelp if it ever looks economically feasible.
Thank you.
Town of Kingston, for moratorium on this, is it because yours is an expansion and not a new lease? Or is the town weighed in on?
The town has weighed in, so we actually, before we even put in, you know, the typical process is a preliminary determination with the state, and it goes from there. So prior to putting in the preliminary determination, we set up a meeting with the town North Kingstown Harbor Commission and said, hey, this is our proposal. We don't want to waste anybody's time if you don't want to do it. 'Cause I know that in previous, you said you don't want any more firms in there. And said, we don't want any more firms, but in that expansion of your lease would be fine. And they did approve and give us permission.
What's what will the depth be at the westernmost boundary?
That's about 14 feet of new well.
So I was gonna ask the commercial people from before, it was raised in the past that when the catastrophic rainfall closures that leases here were proposed to be further out, even out to the 20-foot contour and beyond to keep that area open as opposed to being in, you know, there are major closures of the upper bay and south of that. So 14 is, I guess I'm asking, commercial diggers if, you know, that adequate.
No one can dig in your lease, right? That's
Right, no one can dig in the lease, and we can't dig in the lease as well. You know, I don't know if there's anyone representing North Kingstown growers here, but we tie up next to a couple of them. No, we haven't seen any commercial activity in here, and there's, to my knowledge, not a lot of not very much density.
The channel you have is a dock area you have on the map there,
That's correct, it'd be this spot here.
and how is it marked and who's gonna take?
So we would take ownership of it with the US Coast Guard. We have registered in their system, so we'd be buying navigation markers. We'd be anchoring them with 5-foot helicals, no chain, 9/16 poly right down to it. So then we'd be maintaining them, and that would be that is written in our lease.
How wide is that channel?
That the final width is gonna be determined, you know, in concert with Tom and with the harbor master, but the proposal, it's looking at around 150 feet. So this is about a 250-foot gap, or 245-foot gap, so 150 feet. And as a reference, you know, if you're going into Wickford Harbor where it throats down by the shop, I guess, Gardner's Wharf there, and the boatyard, that's about 153 feet. So it's wide enough for two boats to pass.
And what do you have, just two markers on either end?
So 2 markers on either end. This is about a 500-foot shot. So previous to tonight, I was thinking about that. I don't know what the general eyesight is for channels, but that can, you know, we can work those details out.
Katie, did Ben have any letters of opposition or anything that he could provide us?
No.
He-
Sorry, go.
Oh, sorry, that's my fault. He emailed me and said that there were no letters of opposition that he received for this application.
And the Fish and Wildlife doesn't have any issues with the.
No, we do not have any issues with this particular expansion.
How long does the lease, run?
They're 15-year terms. They can terminate at any time if you're in opposition to your agreement.
More discussion?
Just a reminder for the motion. The motion should be whether or not the proposed project is consistent with the exploitation of marine resources. So, if anyone feels comfortable making a motion,
I'll make a motion to support it, without opposing.
that the proposed project is consistent with the exploitation of marine resources.
Oh. What that says.
All right.
It's,
Thank you.
Do we have a second?
Right here.
Second, go ahead. Is there any more discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of the motion as written? Please raise your hand, right hand, leave them up for a second. I was, whatever hand, I guess. Okay. Okay. Great. So,
Is John's hand?
John McDonald, your hand's up, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Roger Taylor, Brian Bucott. Brian, Souza. And one abstention. All, you can put your hands down.
Wait, I tried.
Any
and
opposed?
then- There was another.
Manuel Souza. Abstention. Dennis.
Okay.
Okay, we have a second application.
Excuse me, Katie.
Go ahead.
I'm abstaining on that.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry. Okay.
Let me just see if there's any questions. So,
Okay, our next application is Gardner. Or, sorry, Watson.
All right, I'm Graham Watson and I own West Passage Oyster Company. I'm very grateful for Matt for taking all the hard questions. I think, So this is Matt's, Salt Box Sea Farm, this is West Passage. Our lease is 6 acres, we started in 2017. Started as 3 acres, we're currently 6 acres, we're trying to expand by 1.5 acres, well, 1 acre point 72. And what that effectively means is moving our southern boundary about 150 feet that way. So this darker area would be what we're proposing. And so Matt and I have been working on it concurrently, and we've sort of agreed that it makes sense to be applying together as this is sort of part of the same process. Effectively taking up this space in here and creating a channel for navigation. Same thing, we're really only farming oysters. We are permitted to do kelp and scallops, and I believe clams, but we've never given it a shot, and I don't think we have any interest in doing that. Economically, it wouldn't make sense for us, but we do the exact same gear type. It's floating gear, 12 cages per long line. I can't think of anything to tell you that Matt didn't cover, honestly.
So you're saying it's economically not feasible for you to try to raise hogs or little nets?
Yeah.
So with regard to your lease, would it be a big loss for you to withhold that from the lease language? So there's not a competing force here, because we're struggling to get what we can. And now all of a sudden, if you're putting product in the market directly competing with us, what about that? You know,
That's a legitimate question. I haven't given that any thought, but I would give that thought.
there's a lot of guys in here, right, trying to make a living doing that.
I've never attempted to farm clams. I've had the lease since 2017. I have farmed clams in the West Coast before, but this is 14 feet of water at the least. For us to feasibly do it, yeah. I would give it consideration of removing that from my application, I suppose.
You know, I think that's sort of an important thing, because, you know,
Yeah. Fair enough.
we're out there trying to get the stuff, and, you know, there's already a Senate subcommittee hearing as to why there's no cohogs in the bay. And, you know, the phytoplankton and all that.
Yeah.
So, you know, as soon as Area E opens up, the prices plummet. And, you know, there's more product in the market.
Well, like Matt said, I would reiterate, it's not very feasible for us to be farming clams anyway, so, yeah, I would consider that.
I think that's valid, on you guys, think that? So, I mean, consideration and language are two different things, too.
Yeah, you're the first person to bring it up, so, I'm thinking of until.
I came from Florida, I just moved back here, and I was a cogger in the 80s, put myself through URI, so I was out there bull raking for 10 years. I'm just coming back. I had to pay a small fortune for a multi-purpose license. Now there's no cohogs out there, right? So I know about aquaculture.
Do you have the results of the shellfish survey on the site survey?
Not on me, no, but they have tested to see how many quads there are.
Yeah, and you know what Ben came up with?
Not in my head, no.
You didn't provide that?
No, I don't think so.
I should have asked about the last one. That's why.
It was up there.
It's up there, so it's 0.7 per square meter. My glasses. That's okay. So I was gonna ask, well, this isn't directed at either applicant, but I was gonna ask them this if you were here, that, you know, I guess it's not clear to me why in the aquaculture reports, they don't, like, sort of, for example, Mr. Watson's category B requirements, and not this is directed at him, but I don't understand why Ben in his review doesn't, evaluate the language that the applicant puts in about how he's demonstrating the different requirements for category B. In all the other CRMC applications that are out there, the staff does that, and in this, in that culture case, they don't do that, so I was like to hear why that's the case, because it kind of comes down to in all of these, particularly when it's environmental or fisheries based. The agency just is relying solely on what this group says, rather than, holding the applicant accountable. So that's just my 2 cents on that.
I'm looking at an email from Ben. And it says shellfish abundance based on nearby surveys of this area indicate that the cog density range of 0 to 0.75 cohogs per square meter.
Just using the surveys in some areas.
That's
0.1,
question.
I know what it seems like. 0.
There's no cohogs per.
Yeah, there's pretty good dread survey data from the.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
That area.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that out.
I think that would be a big one.
Go ahead, Mike.
I guess we have a former,
So the density information is out there about it for years.
this proposed channel that they're talking about seems a lot more necessary now that we have the second application.
You're not getting through there even after the first one.
Yeah, well,
I've
I'm
been
just,
up in
no,
Weed and they were
I'm
typing.
wondering, this is a CRMC question, I mean, you said you contacted the Coast Guard and their approval, is that something that, like, to be part of your, as part of your permit written, that you have to do this, because this is kind of outside your lease, so you're really kind of controlling water that's not your water. It's a good idea, I think, to have it there, considering how dense the releases are and how close. It looks like they're like within 75 or 100 feet of each other, going this way.
So from the corner of our lease, the gray, the salt box lease, the closest lease to the north is the blue, and that's 161 feet. From our existing lease to the south, the dark gray down to the small green box is around 245 feet. We're proposing around 150-foot channel, just to give us a little room of, moving in between lines on either end, and Tom as well. And you raise a valid point about the ownership of that, and I've talked with Ben about it, and there hasn't been any conclusions, how that's gonna be written in. And, we have no plan on
I've never
selling
heard of
these.
developing your own channel.
Well, we didn't either, and we thought, Graham and I were putting our heads together and said, well, shoot, we're gonna effectively, 160 feet may be okay, but then between mine and Graham's lease there, that's like 75 feet. And that, sure, if you know what you're doing, you can get through there, but for the average boater, they see these cages, they don't know what's going on.
CRMC actually had a management plan for aquaculture that would be best to put the language in there, that area is not going to be authorized for leases. Maintain a presence of the channel.
Or like a reverse lease.
Not a reverse lease, in other words, no leases will be made within this fall foot away.
So, you don't mind, Jim, is that something that's a doable thing within CRMC to make a channel? As long as the Coast Guard's on board and.
It sounds like it's more of a aids to navigation issue with the Coast Guard. Essentially, there's not a lease there now. It's an open fairway between leases. And the reason that they're going to be putting these aids to navigation is to just help people, point them in the direction of, here's a safe passageway sort of through the middle of these existing and now proposed leases. They're not owning it. They're just maintaining a couple aids to navigation in coordination with the North Kingstown Harbor Master and apparently the Coast Guard.
Is it more of a right of way than a channel?
It's not a right of way. It's essentially just marking a fairway. And I'm assuming these are gonna be lighted buoys.
Non-lighted North Kingstown, at least the last we visited with our corner markers, they said they don't want lighted.
Okay.
Just because if everybody had lighted corner markers out there, so My guess is they're not gonna want lighted day. I had proposed day cans, you know, to the.
Yellow flickers on the.
Yeah, we wrap, not radar reflectors, but reflective tape, it's like you would regular day markers.
The reality is there aren't a lot of boaters. I spend a lot of time here and there are not a lot of boaters operating around these leases. They're on the periphery. Very rarely do I see boats on the inside that are not working these leases.
Yeah, the only time we see them is a few on the weekends, you know, not many, like you said.
But
And-
if they come into the beach, they come to the east of all these leases. And come into the shoreline closer to Green Point. And come into the beach, they're not going through the middle of these lease areas to get to the beach there between Rome Point and Green Point.
Yeah, to the east of that, or to the south, yeah, by Greenpoint, there are some foul areas, so. You know, when Graham and I were putting our heads together, we just thought the fair thing would be, you know, to maximize the, you know, from a. Ocean planning perspective, maximize the footprint here, there's already a lot of aquaculture instead of seek other areas. But in doing so, help the navigational process, you know, to the recreational users.
So the part is doable. And that would be put into the permit itself, or is that a separate thing within the town of North Kingston and the Harbor Commission?
I think it would be some type of an agreement that the CRMC would have with the North Kingstown Harbor Master. In terms of maintaining a fairway between leases. None of the leaseholders would own or control any fairways in and around the leases, period. It's just, they're marking a fairway for safe passage for boaters.
So they'd be in charge of the markers.
That's apparently something that he's worked
Coast
out
Guard
with the
would be
Coast
fine with
Guard
that?
and the town of North Kingstown Harbor.
Yeah, there's a patent registration system for what aids to navigation. And there's a process online with the Coast Guard and there's a local chapter and you register them, they probably just keep a database of them somewhere. Probably most people don't, they just throw a buoy out there for local use. Navigation.
Thank you.
Just one more thing to note, there were no letters of opposition to this application.
North Kingston felt the same way about this one as it did about yours,
Yes,
the town,
Yeah,
part of the preliminary.
yeah, we put in the application almost at the exact same time and then realized that we were putting it together, so. Ben and, well, the three of us discovered that and they're concurrently happening, together, so we figured we should do it together. Yeah.
Any more questions for the applicant? Would anyone like to make a motion? Any staff members?
I'll make a motion that it is consistent with competing uses.
Could there be a conditional that it doesn't compete with the clams and cohos?
Yeah. We can do something.
That it is consistent with competing uses.
But it says up there.
Do we have a second? Second from the phone. Any more discussion on the motion? I'm gonna try a roll call vote for this one, just because we're all spread out. Brennan Vika.
Yeah.
Dennis Erkin. Cam Menace, Jeff Gardner, Bob Rowe, we're not here. Dave G.
Oh, yeah.
Jeff Grant. John McDonald.
Yeah.
Mike McGivney.
Yay.
Ken Margot.
Yeah.
Manuel Souza.
Yes.
Roger Collier.
Yes.
Ed Triano.
Yes.
That's it. Got up to-
Are you the only one growing shellfish or clams there in that?
I don't grow clams.
They're in your permit, but you don't grow them?
That's right. Yeah, when I first applied in 2017, I applied for both, well, kelp, scallops, oysters, and clams. I do plan on doing kelp, and we have done a little bit of scallops, but never clams.
Do you know if anyone is running clams in here?
Zero, nobody.
Thank you.
I don't think there's any interest.
Yeah, they generally take twice as long to grow and you get half as much money.
Right.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Like guys.
One question there. How is it determined that the density around Rose Point is saturated?
I think that was a part of North Kingstown.
So is that something the town decides?
Vinegar, Cooperman.
I mean, let's say, we don't have the authority to water the house. I think that's really how I can see this.
You ready?
Do it.
All right,
All right, so moving off of aquaculture, I think most of you know me, but, for those who don't, I'm Connor McManus with Division of Marine Fisheries at DEM. So we have a few slides here that's gonna just kind of go through 2023 harvest performance and kind of the cohog information from our dredge survey and such, for 2023. And then, I'll open the floor back to you all to discuss prospective harvest schedules for Area E, this upcoming year. So by way of background, here's the landings and information that we have for this past year. As you can see, and as many of you know, the number of days that we had last year, including the December openings, was a total of 15. And landings were, as a result of this, you know, we effectively had a drop in total harvest, pretty consistently, we have about 350,000 clams harvested for every day that's open. And it's pretty consistent in terms of the selectivity for what's harvested by size class out of the river. So we haven't seen anything overly dramatic in terms of reduced size composition on the catch or anything like that based on the number of days open. But you know, we had a kind of a tighter range in terms of what we saw from, like, you know, minimum daily landings to maximum, particularly compared to 2022 when we had more days and with those, you know, varied weather under that, but pretty consistently, I'd say 350,000 clams harvested per day. The general same participation year to year that we see, and we really don't really see any change both in the catch rates as well as interest or licenses actively fishing, whether it's spring, the summer, or December. So it seems pretty consistent through each of the seasons. So for those of you who are just interested what you all landed last year and what it looks like in terms of previous years, you know, basically, in terms of the last 3 years, what's really dictating it is, of course, days open, but we don't see, you know, average clams per day increasing or decreasing in terms of what's landed out of the area. All right, next slide. So this is the dredge survey. We have just the Providence River results for this discussion today based on the topic at hand, but back when the Area E opened, we moved our dredge survey sampling to now sampling the Providence River and Greenwich Bay every year with then rotational sampling and some of the other strata. So based on the need for this information as we move forward with the management of this area. So as many of you know, we have the research vessel Reliance now that's charged with sampling cohogs as part of our dredge survey. And we conduct this survey now traditionally October to December. So after much of the harvest has occurred and throughout much of Narragansett Bay, including the river. But we've used the same methodology historically with this survey as we have with others. So we're, you know, rather confident that the results are comparable because it's the same dredge, same towing, a lot of the same staff engaged. with some work done to really try and understand some of the differences with the new vessel being done. But we're pretty confident in the work of the new boat as it relates to our previous year's work too. But this is just a breakdown of the samples. And you can see here in the map, like color basically corresponds to catch. Blue means low, red means high, and you can kind of get a sense of what we saw per station. Again, the boxes are pretty big. We do 1 tow per box, so you know, the actual site we dredge is a function of depth and so forth, and an activity that may be up there the day we are there. So that just gives you a sense of the densities. The blue is 1.4 for reference, and as you get to the red, it's high 20s average and number of cohogs per square meter.
How does this compare to the last 2 years? Is there any way to kind of?
I don't have it by space, but next slide, if you do the next slide. So this is just the time series of those. So red is the river. So we can focus on that for the moment here. So if you look at the entire river, on average, what we saw this past year was slightly above in terms of the entire portion, that's both area E as well as north of that. It would seem that we're still in this kind of higher stanza, if you will, for catch compared to the 2000s, you know, so whatever occurred, whether it was a recruitment event or whether conditions were right, you know, for enhanced plants per square meter, we're still in that kind of higher period, though, again, I would argue with the error bars and the points, they're pretty similar in some of those years, with the 2001 point being particularly high. And what we've seen in Greenwich and Narragansett Bay have been rather stable. Yeah.
The tallest one, that's the 2021?
Yes, yeah.
That was after the opening, right?
That was after the opening. I think so, or I don't know when we sampled that year, but that was
I
the year.
think that was
opened.
one of the things that we said it was actually after the opening that we had the highest abundance rate.
The survey includes unfished areas, so.
So if you,
I wanna ask.
if you go to the next slide, this is only fished areas. This is only E. So if you've trimmed out, this is only looking at samples over time for area E. So it kind of goes both ways. You see 2001 is particularly high. You know, that's strong year you were mentioning, Mike. But the actual contrast between recent years and the years prior is less when looking at just area E. Though I would argue it's still up, you know, greater density in the last 5-7 years than what we saw in the 2000s for the area E specifically.
It looks like we're at the 2018 level.
Correct. Yeah. Yep. So
So after 3 years of openings, right, this is post, no, actually, it would have been during the openings at this last one.
sorry, 21, we've been open 3 years, started May 20th, something like that. So we likely started sampling after it opened. So yeah, 3 years, the last 3 years, the area E was open. And then the earlier years.
So you can make an argument, I guess, that we've had it open for 3 years and we're still at the 2018 level, which the level that it had never been open.
Correct. Yep, I think all these years, fished, unfished, it's in a higher stanza than the previous years. Yeah.
Sure, I have a question.
Sure.
On that, 2 slides where you showed the sampling. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so I see Gaspy Point on the west and Bullock's Point on the east, which is the demarcation point, the northern demarcation point for area E. So you're a sampling north of that, way up the Providence River.
Mhm.
And what's the purpose of you looking at stocks there relative to area E?
It's a good question. So I think from a natural resource perspective, we believe that the interrelation between cohogs throughout Narragansett Bay is, there's some connectivity.
So
So
you're
I-
spawning, is that like you're trying to
Good.
figure out that that's gonna spawn down to there
Or,
and see?
yeah, and what we've seen over time too, over the last 40 years, areas have opened due to water quality improvements. So it's important to understand both pre.
So there's
and
a,
post.
depending on water quality, you might consider moving the line farther north, is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that it's important to know what's there before and after you open, or if such a management action would occur, to understand the impact of not just the environment, but the harvest.
So
So, yeah,
that's just for your own internal knowledge, but in terms of all the catch limits and all that, none of that's included. You're just giving us a sampling of what's there that can potentially spawn down to the other area.
Yeah, it provides a contrast between open and closed, like we sample Greenwich Cove, we sample Apponaug a little bit, we sample Warwick Cove a little bit. Like, they're not only sampling areas that are open to harvest, but just to understand how maybe that unit changes based on another thing like hypoxia, even though it's closed. And when that happens, do we see a reduction in the local area of cohogs just in that strata? Does that have a larger impact on the adjacent cells or adjacent kind of subcomponents?
Is hypoxia an issue in area E that you've come up with in terms of water quality?
I mean, historically, it has been a challenge, yeah, but I think that's part of why it's a larger discussion. I can chat with you later. In short, water quality, hypoxia has historically been something that the department's tried to address to improve animal survivalship, basically.
That's why they're all, we pulled them up the big spot there.
So, yeah, well, I can chat with you more about
Thank you.
that after you. Yeah.
That was.
So yeah, that was that one. This is just the size compositions, of what we're catching in the survey. So you can see and this is just area E. So you can see in 2015 and 17, we saw a lot of sublegals coming through. We've seen less of that in recent years. I mean, the dredge is designed to catch legal claims, so that and part of what is
2-inch ring, just 2-inch ring that they use.
Well, I think the actual mesh in the cage is an inch. I'll actually.
It's a 1-inch spacing.
Yeah.
1-inch spacing.
Yeah.
So it's clogged with mud and shell, and that's the only time it's subdivided, so we never collected that data for actual density, there's no. In there.
So like in the sand comes up shiny, and everything goes right through. But then when it's packed with mud, you'll get some of those small. So that's a physical habitat dependent. Yeah.
That was a problem back before you had this place. I'm sorry.
Oh no, sorry. Yeah, Jerry.
Connor, the new boat, what is the maximum depth of the dredge?
It's basically, it's not so much the boat depth as much as it is right now, the hose depth and how we construct that. We've been generally keeping it the same depths that we have been, it can't go quite as shallow as the Clambo, but we have talked about whether we wanted to try and, create a longer hose and try and get some of the deeper areas as well. But generally speaking, it's like 8 feet to 35, 40 feet.
So it gets 35, 40 feet?
In some spots, yeah, when needed, but we're not getting it's a good question though, because we're not getting the channel, right?
I didn't know it was going down that deep, I thought you didn't have the.
I would say most of the time, in most years, the max depth is 30, maybe 32, but it can go deeper as needed, but I mean, much of the sampling that, we usually don't go that deep though. Yeah. Yes.
I just wanted to add to what he was saying, there was a study done that said that it was found that dense populations in areas close to fishing do not achieve the same reproductive output of clams in less than a fifth area. This called into question the long-held belief that dense aggregations of cohorts in closed areas service the fish stuff. The downstream fish. So dense areas that are not fish are not optimal. It's that whole area into the blue stuff.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, it's just the area above area E, that's kind of been our kind of talking point or hinge point on accessing this. At the end there, Dennis, when you were working, I remember you mentioned that you saw a higher biomass above area E, and it seemed to have continued.
As the improvements to the treatment plant and tunnels came online, it seemed more survival on live clams and further up.
And there seem to be more red areas above E. Have you seen that, what we're thinking, that there's been the density above area E has really increased quite a bit through the last 3 years with the survey?
I wanted to add one other thing too, so part of the suggestions that we made was the need to look at the condition index of the clams from the mouth all the way to say the base, because it's likely that the clams under the highest stress produce the least, and the healthiest clams are producing the most. So it's not specifically density dependent, it has more to do with where they are located in the river.
But density also means that they're there. And it seems like the Save the Bay, right where the Save the Bay curve was, it was one of the red blocks you had there.
I will say that, like,
And just to his point, I think you're talking about Mike Rice's survey back, 20-25 years ago, it's that basically if you have too many too close and not enough food, that you're kind of, they're not as healthy and they're not as productive.
I think there's two,
Which is one of the rationale for our transplant program.
It says productivity diminishes at 1.5 per square meter, so there's a long way to go for that 1.5 per square meter.
I think
We're
it's,
way off from that.
I think it's more likely oxygen based than food based, in my opinion.
Yeah, and oxygen and other issues.
so just a lot of comments on try and work through them. So the 1.5, I believe, is based on, Long Island and some of the salt content.
Southampton, yes, yeah.
And so they effectively found that the spawner per recruit, basically maximum for that ratio, like how many
Well, it
recruits
says
you get.
here, the data indicate both the limiting density below which recruitment is impaired, 1.5 per square meter, so. And critical density below which there be no recruitment is 0.7 per square meter, so. Recruitment is not impaired, says this, in that area. So you hit 1.5 per square meter, and this is considered possibly no recruitment at 0.7. Which brings me one question. I thought they were gonna use various methods to do it, instead of just a dredge survey. I thought they were gonna use, potentially open it up to have a few more input factors like co-author survey or diver surveys, because I know a lot of dragon fishermen, and they all catch amounts of stuff. But there's so many variables that change that. To me, to get an accurate, even the landings, in my opinion, contradict the dredge survey density.
So, I guess I'll hop to that question, because I think there is spatial pattern, right, that you saw, but that even then, it's highly patchy. Like when you dredge, so I would argue year to year, there's sampling challenges, there's what's happening in the cohort life cycle from year to year, there's different things that influence our ability to monitor them consistently and lend itself to multiple methods of sampling. I totally agree.
Is that a consideration still? Because I know it was talked about before.
It is, and we talked about it a lot.
The more methods you take, you can combine them all and take an average.
You can, there's different ways to integrate multiple survey data, yeah, so.
It's still being considered.
So, yeah, totally, I think there's questions on resources and making sure that the methods are sound and how do we construct it to do it long term, so we not in a snapshot, but consistently.
They did it before, so they did use divers and.
Well, we did it. We did it.
Yeah, we did it,
Dave G did it with
Dave and Jerry and,
Jerry, yeah.
a few people here, Dennis and I,
Do it again.
yeah, Matt, yeah.
So one of the other things that is really discussed, but like Connor's been mentioning about the patchiness is that the substrate, I think, makes a huge difference when they probably recruit in even distribution, but not all of them survive. Those who land on soft muck, the VO is low and they survive well. And if they land on a harder substrate, they're more likely to survive. So that all that has to be taken into account, and then which clams are contributing the most larvae. It's important.
Sorry, Mike, just to Mike and, your comment earlier, I mean, I think what Dr. Rice's paper suggested was that in these closed areas, you have a lot of clams and poor water quality. And that leads to competition for food and perhaps worsening gonads to reproduce. And so the question is, just because there's a lot of clams in there, does that mean their reproductive output's the same as an open area with fewer clams if the water quality is not the same? So that was kind of the hypothesis he put forth, and it hasn't been scaled to all in Narragansett Bay, but I think it's definitely something we talked about at the commission in the last,
I was going to mention
6 months. So.
If I may, we have a state commission on the nitrogen reduction in the quahog population and the fact that the quahog population is diminishing. And they really the state mandated 50% reduction after the 2003 fish kill. And they went way beyond that. They're at like 70% now. And they went from 15 as an average, kind of 15, 16 to now below 5. So that's really had an effect on the bay, and we're really concerned about that. But one of the things I saw that they're actually saying that has changed the bottom. What's going on the bottom, especially the area E where we're working, where before there was like very primitive, arthropods and cyclopods, all those different pods. And now it's morphed, and they think because of the nitrogen, it's not as a death zone when there was too much nitrogen there, and it now more resembles the rest of the bay. So, it's kind of, I was thinking that the nitrogen made this, a sweet spot now, but it also seemed to have changed the bottom a little bit and made it more receptive. So I'm just wondering how much that's happening up bay, how much of a resource we have now that we didn't have 2018 or prior, how much that affects we can take out of area E if this area is now a very healthy area. So it's a lot of stuff, information coming out with that commission.
Do they have, the same population density study in area A and B, with the color-coded density area?
Sorry, say that one more time.
You had area E with the color-coded population density areas.
Yeah.
Do they have that for area A and B?
Yes, we didn't, we have, we don't sample those, the same periodicity, like we do, as we do with Greenwich and with Providence, but we have them like we sample them every other year, or.
I think Mike was just about getting into this, whereas A and B will probably far closer to this 1.5 per square meter than B is. So is area B not a valuable area? Why don't we open E more and give A and B a break? Because it's not open on the same conditions. People are all gonna go to A and B, and that falls in far lesser per square meter.
Yeah, and I think the other discussion we've had often is like, that there is connectivity between area E and down bay, between larval transport, between and some level of connectivity. I think to this gentleman's question earlier, why do you monitor areas that we don't harvest? It's because they're contributing to some degree to the population at large. And so there's a discussion about if there's with this down bay flow of larvae or seed from northern areas, you just have to be careful to make sure that you're leaving some to keep reproducing to continue to seed A and B as well. And that if E was dropped too far, then you may not even have seed that can go and actually support A and B, because the studies would suggest that a lot of the seed for Narragansett Bay is supported by closed areas like E.
So if it's 0.7, it says at 0.7, there's no, which areas would be closer to the 0.7, which means it said multi-decades to recover from 0.7 per square meter. Where would you find the 0.7s in area E or area A and B?
You find, well, there's areas in all of those that exceed 0.7, but down bay, mid bay, lower bay, no. But to your point, there's
Seems like
certain,
the efforts should shift. That's all.
well, you guys will have that discussion.
Yeah, I thought of shifting north more with the survey. I know on the west side of the river near Fields Point, you're done because it becomes all tankers, but there's another good stretch north of where you sampled.
You go back on.
Yeah.
The map.
On the east side or the right hand side. You see where it becomes gray over there? It's like the bike path comes really close to the water up there. I was just looking, I don't know names of areas. Yeah, but up in that vicinity. There's another stretch on the east side that it's a big strip of bottom that's from shallow out to 25 is your typical.
We attempted it, but there's so much debris, but you would just drop the dredge a few times, you see if there's anything alive.
Yeah.
You also have that closure zone around the outflow, the wastewater treatment facility, which would preclude any harvest at any time in the future, just because of location.
Right, in discussion, David walked around in the water quality section at the end. It's an interesting discussion, but on top of that is exactly what you pointed out. Currently, when we work to open area E, we had to satisfy the FDA that there was adequate dilution from the Fields Point, East Providence, and Buckland Point wastewater treatment plants. Now, these plants are old, right? Providence, and area's been developed forever. The models that are currently in effect are pretty simple box models, and the limit of acceptable dilution right now is Gaspy Point, and that's why the line is where it is. If you were, say, as a group wanting to fish north of there under routine conditions, you would have to satisfy the FDA that there's adequate pollution. The way they want to do that nowadays is with the dye stuff. And personally, I would be reluctant to do that because it could give you information that you may not want to know. So just keep that in mind, and it's great to know what's there.
So you're talking about where the bends in there on the river, where the field point is? That's in the delusion from that down
To Gaspy Point.
to Gaspy Point.
Right, so the area north of that could be eligible for the full relay, all those kinds of things.
So I thought there was talk about it when the third tunnel, third phase comes in. That this area above area E would be a potentially open. You're saying that there's not enough delusion
Right.
to allow below
The
that.
flow rates, the permitted flow rates of the three plants that discharge to the river.
So anything above area E can only be used for transplants and such, probably?
Under our current management. In the big revision.
Or permanent biomass for improvement.
Are all of these exhibits and charts available on?
We put this online after.
Okay, so this will all be online.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. You can just bounce this, yeah. Okay, so then, just to kind of segue into your deliberations, so in the past, as you probably remember, I showed you all those simulation results that we talk about, so I'm just gonna give you the summary of that all here, because much of why we do that is trying to understand, or the background we provided in previous years was to understand how catch rates vary seasonally by day, the average effort, and again, what we're finding is that in the last 3 years, things have been pretty stable. So what we basically then have been working towards is under an assumed target catch based on biology or management or whatever, we then look to try and figure out what the corresponding days would be on average to support that via basically simulating a bunch of different ways of which varying catch rate by people or how many people show up on a given day to then produce an estimate. The short of it is that in the previous years, we have recommended based on that like a total catch of like 4 or 5 million, something like 14 days. Right now, even if you look at a catch more like on average, what we've seen the last few years, like 7 million, that would correspond to about 16 to 18 days that we would recommend for harvesting. So in your deliberations or discussions, when you think about half the days closed, you may think about to get to 18 days or to get to 20 days or to get to 19 or 20 or whatever your discussion ensues, you'd be probably looking to at least recommend double that based on static number of days. So like what our recommendations are a little bit probably more liberal than it was last year. But just by way of background for those of you who weren't privy to the council process. So last year, you all went forth with your proposal. The council, we gave recommendation to the council. Their final recommendation was 18 days in addition to the December harvest, 1 day a week in December. So if you go to the next slide.
Of those 18 days, we used 15 of them.
Correct, yep, so there was discussion at the council multiple times since then. Since last year, so January, October, December, October, how to use any extra days. So for example, if you wanted to take the 3 you didn't use last year and include that in your proposal, that would not be something that the division would oppose in terms of moving forward. So if that's something you want to consider, we'd be supportive of that. But I also, just for transparency, I think one of the challenges we had last fall was confusion on regulatory language. So this is what the rule looks like right now on the screen. So we have other ones like bushel limits and licenses for boat and recreational, but this is what the schedule looks like now.
This is for 23, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Not now, but was.
That's what.
Whereas it's got 24.
Right,
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is what it is, and I just wanted to show you how, because I just wanted to give people an idea of how we write the language, because there was a lot of confusion in October of how we didn't have days, and December when we thought the proposal was January, so I just wanted to be super clear as to how we write regulatory language, and ideally what your discussion tonight would look like when we try and move it into an actual reg. So,
So you're not supportive, we actually put the days in that we're requesting as opposed to
That's
Monday, Wednesday, first Monday, second Wednesday?
sorry, I jumped again, we'll explain that again.
Well, when we put our proposal together for 2024, 2025, there was a lot of shifting of days. You know, we went with a steady Monday. And then, you know, Monday, Wednesday, but there's also a lot of holidays involved and different things. And it got kind of confusing when you know, had all the different shifts and stuff. So we thought it was simpler and, you know, just less confusing to literally write the day down that we wanted. That way, there's no interpretation, there's no.
That works too.
Okay.
And I think, and I guess in that model, you might write 40 days, just saying, random number. There would still be this language on the bottom that says, you know, that corresponds to the original proposal, so of like 8, no more than 18 or 21 or whatever.
Well, last year, because of the dry 2022, and we had 28 openings, that was, you know, I guess too much for Fish and Wildlife. And that's when you recommended last year was the first year that we started counting the days.
Correct.
So that's a new thing, but since it actually helped us, because now we have a number of days, you can go off that number. And
Correct.
like I said, we only use 15, so you try to use the extra 3, you know, going forward or.
Yep. And I think that, you know, conceivably those, well, yes, that's basically the model, yep. But you know, just so you can write days out too, but like when we write the reg, like we have to also write what happens between January 1 and May 20th, right? So there are these things that we have to do on our end, so and I bring this also up because like in the regulatory world, like, you know, we would make we don't necessarily go to rule on a reg depends on what's happening, so like it is definitely paramount for you all to make a recommendation to make sure the days are right and that they're not on the holidays or on the weekends and such. So, but I just wanted to, because there was so much discussion between basically December and January as to what was going on. I also wanted to just say that it would be nice too now if you discussed an additional rollover policy to do that here. It'd be great to have that all in one package moving forward for 25. So then we're not, because of the way the timing works with councils, we're not in a position to know how many days you actually have until it's too late. So it'd be preferable to know. It just, yeah. The only thing I'll note on that for you guys to discuss is that if you are thinking about a rollover into a January, February, March, I had a zillion people call me with varied opinions on that. And I think that mainly them tied to Greenwich being open. So if you're thinking about that in the fall, when you come back to do the Greenwich cycle, I would then think about how those two intersect. If that makes sense, if you're following me. You could be making a recommendation now to modify E for rollover days in February 25, when Greenwich would be open. And so there was concern about Greenwich and E being open the same day or 3 days.
What would the concern of that be?
Flooding the market, people fishing.
Generally, if he's open, they're not gonna be in Greenwich.
I think the volume of which they can fish out of E was more than what could be handled in February, and that was I'm not a fisherman. This is what's conveyed to me, so I bring it to you guys, so just, if you think about February 25, March 25 now, you may wanna discuss that in the context of your fall discussion on Greenwich Bay winter harvest schedule at that time, so.
So the question with
Yeah.
regards to rain closure. So your target is 18 days for that fiscal year digging, right? 18 days.
18 days between effectively May and through November, and then that doesn't include the 3 days in December. That's also
Right, so I ran across this where because of the heavy rains that were this last season,
Yep.
that numerous days did not open in E was supposed to, so how, will there be a rollover that we will have these 18 harvest days? Because if it's a rain event and another rain event and another rain event, and all of a sudden that month is out.
Sorry if I wasn't clear, that was the conversation about. It was 18, right, 18 permanent days, you only got 15.
Right.
So that was the discussion of the difference of the 21 number. So if the proposals of seek to recoup those days, the division would entertain that. Is what I
And
guess my
ensure that
response
we
is.
have this harvesting. Okay.
But conceivably, if it rains a ton again, you're back in another scenario for 25. So and there's an interest from many, not everybody, but many try harvesting in the winter. This area. And so my only recommendation is if you're looking to do so, I would just try and do that now in your proposal. So we're well positioned to know come November 1st or 15th, how many days are rolling over or not, so we can prepare on our end. Because what happened last year was when there was no other opportunity for the council to entertain additional days by the time we knew how many were left. So
Years ago, I don't know, a lot of you guys been in the business a long time. I was in it almost 40 years ago. And it was always, the transplant areas were open in the winter, when it was hard for us to get call hogs, remember? Greenwich Bay, Bristol Harbor, it seems like it's opposite here in Eden. It's open in summertime. When things are, you could spend long days, go out, A and B. So I don't know, is this to provide the product for all the summer clam boils? Is that why it's being done? Because it used to be to help us out in the winter when we couldn't make any money, right guys?
I mean, I guess, I won't, they're probably the best.
Well, the program you're talking about is still going on. The Greenwich Bay Management Area, we transplanted to that, and that is for winter harvest. It's really sheltered.
Yeah.
You guys can work on a day
Bristol
like
Harbor.
today, or, on really windy days. This area is so productive, and it's been so long in the wait to get there, that generally it's the summer months when the demand is high, that the markets can absorb, what's being produced there. It's what, 350,000, 370,000 every day it
Oh, yeah.
opens.
I'm with you. I
Upwards of
understand.
400 some days.
We got up to 400,000, so it's.
You're saying they
it's the-
couldn't be absorbed in the winter, there's not
No,
enough
and
demand.
that's the problem.
People
We'll
aren't gonna eat
discuss
them
later,
clam
that
sauce.
winter harvest is just too productive that time of year with the marketing, but my group is trying to adjust that and still trying to get a winter opening, but that's gonna be for.
Yeah, not to
Our
get
next
too
thing.
in the weeds, but just on the process, so, and I'm sorry if you already know this, but. So this group is gonna provide one or multiple recommendations to the council. And that could be this what has now been traditional for the last few years of spring, summer, fall, or it could be conceivably one day a week year round. That would be what they discuss momentarily, but there's no, I guess biologically, the clams spawn in May, June, so it might be nice to let them spawn, but that's a different discussion. But yeah, that we've discussed all those elements, how to stretch days year round, whether to do it when the market's the peak, and how do you meet the local demands for seafood, not just around regionally. So anyway, that's yeah. So that's all. Any other questions for me? I'll be here still, but
Just a quick clarification. Is
Sure.
it Prerogative of the DEM to manage the resource itself, or to also manage it based on personal, cultural, and social interests? I was told something different, and it sounds like that may change.
no, well, I don't know.
From the DEM's perspective,
I'll say the Division of Marine Fisheries perspective is sustainable fisheries.
so they don't have any input in terms of social, cultural, and any individual personal economic interest. You stay out of that.
My recommendation is based on making sure people can fish clams for a long time in terms of finding the sweet spot of how much to take out. The council will make another recommendation to the director, which includes several different elements,
So-
both my opinion, sometimes not my opinion.
If I can just add one more question, then. If you're interested in managing the resource, and you said that the study I'm citing is from Long Island and is somewhat irrelevant, Potentially.
Those are my words, that's fine.
Yeah, so what would the number be able to, per square meter go down to be sustainable? Cause this says 1.5 per square meter.
Right.
And to me, it's very similar to waters, but do you have a number that we're looking at? Because all of this is based on that number, and I'm curious what, I thought it was 1.5 per square meter you could go down to. And after that, it was impaired, and at 0.7, it was considered done. So what is the number that you're working with? Because you're already, I looked at that number when you had it, it was around 7 per square meter. And I still question the dredge survey's accuracy, but what is the number that you consider that we could go down to safely for recruitment?
On that method that they use, we do not have data that can be used to create the same type of curve, quite frankly. So I don't know the answer.
You don't know the number of population density, which is a target?
No, we have estimates of the population density, which is why we've historically suggested a harvest of 4 to 7 million clams in the last 2 years. That's what we've been using based on, actually,
But it's not the aggregate, it's based on the square meter density.
that's what they did because they didn't have a model or any of the analytical.
You don't use a square meter density to decide how much we can fix this?
We use it as what's that?
If you do, what is it?
Yeah, so we use multiple methods. We use the survey to provide relative changes in abundance for us. It's not absolute. And then we use other estimates like how fast they grow, how fast they die, what's the maturity like for the species, and what the catch is to actually estimate of this number up there, how many could we harvest without overfishing the population. That's what we've done historically, or not historically, the last few years to try and provide guidance on that. And so we have. And then that's one piece of information that the council has, and that's not always jived or aligned with the SAP recommendation. And so to your earlier point, there's a biological recommendation that we give. And that sometimes aligns with the various public comment or the SAP recommendation, and the council will make a recommendation to the director of DEM with all that information at hand. Right. So it's usually not,
Well, you're telling me what the process is. I'm looking at a particular number, for example, for square meter population density. What would your minimum allowance be? Because this study is like 1.5.
yeah, for a coastal lagoon in New York, maybe that works. Maybe that's similar for Point Pierce.
So what is?
We don't have that number.
You need far greater detailed studies to, that's my earlier point about the condition index. The density doesn't matter if they don't use any water.
That's right.
Yeah, Ken.
Quick question.
In light of all this data, are you guys recommending the same harvest level as we've been working under, which is at 4 to 7 million range?
Oh.
I know it's a target, it's not a hard.
So the 18 actually is what as a base, is what we're recommending, but if you wanted to do an extra 3, and 4 million is less than 18. So we're actually being a bit more liberal or risk averse, or risk tolerance in terms of what we would allow. Based on the last 2 years of monitoring and dialogue and trying to work with the industry and the council. Yes, sir.
Would you be in agreement to adding more days if we decided to take only 3 bushel a day?
Yes. But that's not, well, so the short answer is yes. Yeah.
So, I know that you guys are talking about the amount that's coming out every time. And, my question to you is there a thought process already started where we're gonna start looking at this area like area A, way back, there was Super Tuesdays. And we spoke to Barrington and do our thing, and then over time, we got a certain amount of time allotted, and eventually that became area A, long story short.
Yep.
Is that in the process now? And it's a twofold question, because you made comments consistently about watching that number come down and protecting that resource that feeds the bay, right? But is that going to hinder that becoming, say, the next area A? Whereas now we can move up there and get more time, more days in
which, you know, on the other side of it would make it a more sustainable fishery for the guys fishing. Okay, a lot of guys now, it's a part-time job because they're just not making ends meet. So a lot of the conversation that's being had amongst folks that I talk to is, okay, is this eventually gonna become the new area A? And if that number comes down, would that then say, okay, you guys are thinking about shutting that area down?
So. That
I know it's a twofold question, and I apologize for that.
No, I appreciate the question. So I think, maybe I'll rephrase it, like, do I see area E just being open all the time unless there's water quality closure? Is that basically the question?
Right.
Probably not. I mean, I would like to see a schedule that's consistent. That we, like, almost like Greenwich, like where we have a system and we're trying to work through it, but we're not necessarily having the same, or to allow for some consistency over a period of time to see what actually happens, right? Instead of this every year kind of bouncing back and forth between different stuff. It'd be nice to like have a period, 3 years, 2 years, or some 5 years, whatever the staff would recommend the council, and say what's it look like with a stable management plan in terms of what the outcome is. I don't know if the area is, I don't know if the division would be ever in a spot where it's basically open unless it's water quality closure, based on what we've seen is, you know, over time with openings and what we now see in D and A and certain parts of A, I should say. At least at this point, that could change, but I guess that would be my question today on the spot.
So you're thinking of it more as like Greenwich Bay, a bigger Greenwich Bay in a sense.
Yeah, I guess it depends too. Also, I think there's still a conversation to be had of like, when is it open? Right, you know, and I don't think I would say it would be open 5 days a week, 8 to 11. Probably wouldn't. I don't think that would work long term for the area or the resource. But that, you know, that's just my thought at the moment.
I guess seeing I kind of harp on this because I think it's really important for the future and kind of to Dave's point. The area above area E evidently might be not accessible, you know. That's really seems to be improving in biomass from the days that Dennis was working it. Probably something to do with the nitrogen reduction that causing issues down day.
Yeah.
So I think that needs to be more part of the conversation going forward. I do agree with you on stability. It's so hard. The last 3 years we've had record rain, record drought, record rain. And we went from 15 to 28 to 15. You know, which is average of 20. So we really need some stability to get back to the point where 2 years ago I asked you not to count the days. And that was the year that it was a drought. So going forward, and nothing to do with our proposal now, but I agree with you, stability is really important. And it'd be nice to have a year or two of a stable rainfall amount and opening amount to kind of get you guys more comfortable in having a stable, you know, not counting the days proposal. Not for this year, but
Yep.
going forward.
Well, I think that whatever the plan is, I think just trying to see when all static, trying to understand how the resource responds. So whether that's days or it's like Greenwich, we're doing Monday, Wednesday, or whatever the schedule is, and just roll. I think that there is some, I mean, that's how most fisheries operate. You know, there's like this level of
But most fisheries don't have the up and down that we've had with this weather stuff.
Depends on the species. I mean, not rain, but
We're water closure, there's not enough.
right, but like herring and mackerel, you think boom in Boston is crazy, right? So I mean, it just depends. So, but to your point, no, they don't have the variability induced by rainfall, which is like a wild card for sure. Totally. Thank you. Yeah. So I'll pass it back to Anna. I think she'll go through the proposals we've received, and then we can see that.
So I think the way we're gonna do this is we have 2 proposals. Well, one person present each proposal. Not have any discussion. We'll hold the discussion till after the 2 people have presented. So, we'll start with Mike.
We had a good membership meeting last Wednesday. We had over 50 shellfishmen show up, which is a pretty high number. And we had good discussion, we had 2 dealers there. And as always, you know, what works for one doesn't necessarily work for another. But we try to drive down the middle and put a plan together that would be as generous as possible without being overly generous and cause market disruption. Our goal is to utilize the days that they give us and use it in a way that, you know, is best for everybody, the fishermen getting a good price, and the market and everything to move it. We did try to get those 3 days last year that we didn't use, the 18 days that was approved by the council, and we only used 15. But as Connor mentioned, there was a lot of misunderstanding and with the language, and it basically all got canceled. So it was our thought, and I did talk to Connor prior, that we add those 3 days that we didn't get last year to the council recommendation of 18 last year. For those that weren't at the council meeting, the council was very open to getting us the 3 days. And they supported that, so I didn't think there would be a problem, and hearing Connor reiterate the problem that the 21 days would probably not be opposed by Fish and Wildlife. That was the number that we decided, you know, that we're going with for the season. We stuck with the 8 to 11 AM opening, 6 bushel limit. But we decided to start a little earlier in the year. Usually it's right around Memorial Day that we start the process. There was some talk, and it's why we're having a meeting now, and the Marine Fishery Council is hearing this in March, to having it even earlier in April. But the consensus was that was too early, and some thought, you know, May was too early too. You know, one of the dealers thought it was too early in the year. I thought it was really helpful. We have the Greenwich Bay management area that we've been using, and Connor has referenced it quite a bit. That runs from December to the end of April, last day in April. So if you start with this, May 6th, which is Spring Harvest 2024, is a Monday. So basically what we're doing is one management area is ending and another one's beginning. So there'll be a management area pretty much year round, except for November and I guess January. So we went with 1 day a week, starting in May 6th on a Monday. We went with the designated days enforcement had recommended. Even though we do know we lose days when you do that. You know, having a one set day, you have a chance of losing days. But also sometimes, and you know, it opened on a Friday and the dealers would be overwhelmed, and then it would open again on Monday, and that would really be a problem. So that does solve that, having the designated Monday. So in May 6th, May 13th, May 20th, and 22nd, 28th, we added the 2 days at the end. I guess that would be the 22 and the 2022 to the prior to Memorial Day weekend. So we doubled up the days prior to Memorial Day weekend, which is what we've done every year. We've been doing this. The 28th, I guess, is the Tuesday. So we couldn't be open on Memorial Day, Monday. So we actually that was why we didn't do Monday to the switch. We went with the days. The difference this year, starting in June, we still stayed with a 1 day a week, the Monday. I think, and I've talked to other dealers, that June early is too early. The kids are still in school, the summer is really not kicked in. And I think the problems we've had in the past with the price and everything was because of early openings in June. So for that reason, the first 2 weeks in June, we went with the Monday. And it wasn't until the third week that we started the 2 day a week schedule, the 17th and the 19th. And then the following week is the week before 4th of July, which is where in the past we really try to concentrate. So we have the 24th, 26th, 28th. I believe that's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. The Friday was added at a request by Mars to just the way the schedule is falling, that, you know, try to get an extra day in there. So that's when we start the 2 day a week, is the 19th. We want to run the 2 day a week through the summer. There was a lot of talk about just stay at 1 day a week, you know, and I thought that was the direction we're going. But if you looked at what happened last year, we had 2 days a week. If we didn't have 2 days a week, the area would have been open 8 days last year during the summer. It was open 13, so 5 of those days were the double days. And trying to capture that harvest and the market, and use the days up, that's another part, you know, you wanna use the days, especially this time of year, so we went with 2 days a week. Through July and then through August, Monday, Wednesday for the most part. And then at the end, it was recommended that we add the Friday to the week before Labor Day, which is 30th. So at the membership meeting, we did add that day, so that would be 3 days a week. For the fall harvest, it's similar to what we've been doing the last couple of years, 1 day a week, Monday to the end of October. This is where, so, is that the whole proposal?
There's another slide.
Okay, so I'll stick with this one. So the December holiday thing, which is the additional 3 on top of the 21. We stayed with the 3 days that we're asking for, like we have in the past. But it was brought up by several dealers that December 9th, when it would traditionally open, if we go on with the prior schedules, is too early in the month and problematic because people want fresh plans for Christmas. And we have the 11th is when Greenwich would be scheduled to be opening up, which is the Wednesday after that Monday. So you have Greenwich opening and that area opening up in a week that's kind of weak, not ready to take the plan. So we wanted to solve that problem or try to make it better, that the week before Christmas, the 16th through the 20th, we want 2 days that week. And they'd be the first 2 non-consecutive days. So they're not numbered days. And in the past, if enforcement's here, they were okay with December being a floating time. Because it's not as busy as the summer and all that other stuff. So it'd be 2 days the week before Christmas. And then the following week would be the last day that we'd be capturing it. I think Wednesday is is Christmas, right? That Wednesday's at Christmas. Christmas Eve is Tuesday. So we took Tuesday and Wednesday off that week. You know, didn't want to be open up Christmas Eve, didn't want to be open up Christmas Day. So it'd be the first Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Monday
It would be either
Monday,
Thursday, or
Friday. That would be the 1 day. So that's that for that slide. Now, to Connor's point, what happened last year? It was kind of a bittersweet thing when they went to the days, counting the days. Because before, if they had counted the days, the every year would have ended on October 30th or whatever, 31st. But because we had an 18 number, we were at 15. So we wanted to recapture that. We weren't very successful last year for several reasons, but we want to make sure it's in the schedule this year so we can capture whatever days if we don't use them. So if we only have 17 days used and we are done with the season at the end of October, we would carry those 4 days into the winter. We also discussed, there's a lot of concern and there's just different opinions on what winter openings would do to the market. One of the reasons we canceled the proposals last winter because, so to try to remedy that and help the full timers, we scheduled to start opening in February 10th, 2 hours. Now you'll say 2 hours, the winter was crazy. No, the 2 hours means the guys that are working the day before, 2 days before in Greenwich, so we're working today, will be there. And maybe a lot of guys that don't normally go won't be there. And it still will be a good day's pay. Hopefully it won't have the market disruption that a 3-hour opening would have. And as part of the formula, we're gonna ask DEM, and there'll be more discussions here, that we transition the 3-hour openings to 2-hour openings. So that would mean if there's 2 days left on the original 21, 2 times 3 is 6, 2 divided by 6 is 3. So we'd ask for 3 openings if there's really only 2 left on the 3 hours. I know that sounds a little complicated, but we're trying to capture every hour that you're giving us. So we also schedule them every 2 weeks. So we give the dealers a time to move the product, branches still would be open, so there'll still be product coming in, which could be problematic. So we're kind of, waiting another week before you have it open. And basically, we set the schedule to the end of March, April and 14th and the 28th. With the idea that we, if we didn't use the days, this is the schedule we use to use them up. And basically, 2 hours would be more restrictive and maybe less, a problem for the whole market and everybody involved. Like I said, we had a really good meeting. And guys are pretty enthusiastic about trying the February. Not everybody everybody has problems with this time or this time, but I think that's a pretty good down the middle. And to what I mentioned to Connor at the end there, is I think this might be a blueprint going forward, or something like a blueprint, where you don't count the days. This is, something similar to this, or, maybe modification, is what Area E becomes, at least for the next couple of years, and not count the days. So I'll stop there.
Thanks, Mike. John?
Yeah, so I stayed with the same time, 8 to 11, 6 bushels. And I remember the Tuesday opening, essentially one day a week throughout May till October, the end of October. I added in a second day in July 1st, which is Monday. Capture the month, the May holiday, 4th of July. And I did the same in May for Memorial Day, the same as August, the end of August, Labor Day. It's just gonna be strictly, essentially a Tuesday opening, except for those 3 days. So with the rain closure, we don't know how many days we're gonna get. I've been doing this over the last few years. And then for the winter schedule, I didn't put any days on here because I didn't know exactly what the state was gonna give us. So the winter schedule for December, I just went with Mondays. But, the first Monday, like I said, you don't know what we're gonna get for rain. Be a heck of a thing if we get rain from, the 10th until the end of the month, and never even get Christmas, and maybe we get the first 2 weeks, or vice versa. We don't, you know what I mean? We don't know. And we don't know how many days we're actually gonna get from May until October. And then we went with rollover days for the winter, for any unused days, possible unused days that we're gonna have left. About the end of January, it's basically every 2 weeks, one day every 2 weeks, 8 to 11, especially one that. And hopefully there's enough time in there to use up whatever remaining days we have left. Nothing really overcomplicated with the dates or anything. It's pretty kind of straightforward. Basically Tuesdays until you get to December, and Mondays, which will line up with the Greenwich days eventually, being open and not open, so you're gonna capture a little bit more in the beginning of the month. I talked to my dealer liked it, it's not too much stuff on the market. We're very, very surprised and start having those type of problems, so. Basically, the proposal, and, like you said, it could be tweaked a little bit here and there, if we want, but put two together and maybe something happen.
So the way we'll do this, everyone can ask clarifying questions, make comments, and we can tweak both of them, or another thing that's always possible is you can vote, we can have 2 votes, you can vote on each proposal, so if I can present both of them to the council, and then they can make a decision if both of them are, pass a vote from you guys. So does that make sense? So like, I don't need to just bring one
I think you should bring both regardless of whether or not,
there.
if one is supported, both should go
Yeah.
before.
They usually have
That would, that would be, so regardless of whether we vote on both of them, I think it should both go forward.
Okay,
But generally you say that, you'd say what the SAP thought of the two proposals.
so I, let them know how both votes went and, but if you are comfortable, changes can be made when it goes to a motion's being made, so if you, guys, let's start asking questions. Anybody have any questions for each of the proposals?
I do.
Go ahead.
Question. Yeah, so like, the January 27th and February 10th and forward. Your deal was okay with those times, cause it's like, that's when nobody kind of wants anything after New Year's, it's like. I'm just wondering if he's okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's still gonna be on the half inch rain, and that's for the overage days.
No, I get it,
You know what I mean?
It's that time of the year, it's like that.
Quick on that, Tony's been pulling our cohort off the machine, last week and a half ago, and he did too, and the second that bag clicks, that bag is off the machine, it's being put on power, and that's zero. They're all 4 weeks a day, and being 30 years old in this, we're talking 4 months, almost 5 months, no work. I'd go look for another job more, there, go to Greenwich, I'd like to see the Greenwich part with Dave, what came out of there, how many guys. What are we actually comparing that to? Because it's such a small number that it really doesn't matter at this point. Because at 30 years old, with nothing to do from January to April, basically, as they just doesn't really give a lot of opportunity to make money. We need to.
I get it.
As a 30-year-old, want to stay in, or to even bring younger kids in, if you say, well, you're going to take 5 months off out of the year. Well, why would you even join it?
It was just a question. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Just a question on one.
Yeah, I also support the in the winter. I think we definitely need something to do. I understand the market concerns, but just observation from my perspective, when you jam a lot of days in 1 week, I saw the market jamming up in the summer. So it's a risk you're willing to take then. I think it's a risk we have to take in the winter because we need something in the winter because there is nothing. And I get Greenwich is great, but it's really great for the guys who live there and it's in their backyard. It is not a viable option at this point for people who live in the rest of the bay. And this resource is what people need to survive the winter. So I understand there's market concerns, but we revisit it every year. It's time to try it. It's very conservative. They didn't ask for a day a week for the whole winter. I think it's worth a shot. In my opinion, it's no more risky than having multiple days a week. Last year, when we transitioned from the 2-day-a-week schedule in the summer in July and August, price levels were closer to 20-ish cents. So the first September opening rolled around 1 day a week and the price jumped right back up to 29-30-cent-ish level. So I would like to see 1 day a week most of the year, barring the big holidays where you shove a second day in, that's fine. And some limited access in the winter just for the viability of fishing operations being the most important thing at this point.
Last year, West Bank dealers put in. So I mean, to be able to try to jack that many days into 1 week when they were already doing piece limits, and I see it looked like a lot more days added during the summertime. They already couldn't do it, so why jack more days into that 1 week, 2 weeks? Spread them out.
Katie?
Yes.
I'd like to agree with those two young men here. I'd like to see 1 day a week all year long. And so what it does, it gives us good work all year as opposed to jamming us all in that area in the summer months. And to agree with that young man there, we're gonna take a chance one way or the other. And if we're all gonna be in the bay, in the E, in the summer, and the prices are gonna drop.
Yeah.
The same, if we might have the same chance, but maybe we won't, by having the E open during the winter. And so it is definitely worth the effort to at least try it and equal it out through the whole year, not just this limited time during the summer. Or take most of our days in the summer. I think we haven't tried it. We haven't tried it. Why not? Why not apply ourselves to this beautiful resource all year long?
The one thing though, if you go to 1 day a week, even during the summer, you have a rain event, you could lose that place for 2 weeks. If you go 2 days, you have the ability to pick up that second day. That's my only issue with the 1 day a week thing, because if you have that rain event, that's 7 days until the opening, you're gonna lose that second opening, could be like a 12 o'clock type deal.
Yeah.
You're gonna lose that second opening, so you're losing it for 2 weeks. That's my only issue with the 1 day a week during the summer. I'm on board, I want it open more than anybody. But that part of it's where I can't wrap my head around it. It's like, okay, I could lose this for 2 weeks.
It would be better for us if we could do 1 day a week with 2 possible days, but I understand.
Well, first available.
Well, we've been pushed away from that, but from a fisherman's perspective, that would be the best for us, would be 1 day a week first available, so we have
Right, but that
a
was,
better chance of guaranteeing it.
if you remember though, Ken, that last time that was enforcement that didn't like that.
I know, and it increases the probability of your day being.
Because we gained more days on that rolling day that year. We had a
Yes.
rolling day, we gained more days right off the bat. So that's my only issue with the 1 day a week. We lose that, there's a very big possibility we lose that second day.
I totally understand what you're saying, and I talked to my dealer, and he was more like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, are the days they want stuff.
Well, I get it.
Obviously, cause you know, you're gonna ship it, whatever. So to maximize it, that's why I went with the Tuesday, and I get it, but if the water quality does what they should, when it closes, it should close for 7 days, not 7.5, like it did at one point. You know, and then like, listen, it's a crapshoot.
I know.
None of us know what kind of weather, it could be a drought for 3 months, and we're done with the day.
I get it. I
Yeah,
get it.
and
I totally
I
get
mean,
it. But I don't want a chance losing that second day. And no offense to the dealers or anything like that. But I understand market concerns, but I also understand having to pay my electric. You know, so when we start looking at, okay, we want it open this day and that day, the other day, that's all well and fine, but the less amount of days potentially that we can get up there is what I'm looking at. I'd like it open 3 days a week, all year round, but what I'm saying is that my issue is if we lose that second day, and then we have another rain event on top of that, we could lose it for an extended period of time.
Right, but, the intent, I mean, is like, if you look at that, May, June, July, August, September, October, and December. It's got the opportunity to be open each one of those months, right? I mean, that's
Notoriously, May's a rainy month, right? So like May, June can be kind of rainy, and when we get into the summer, the months like August and that, we get those torrential downpours that come pouring through. So we're looking at, look at what happened last year, right?
No, I know,
But at least this summer, you can go target something else. So yeah, you lost 2 weeks, you can't go call hockey, go Black Sea Bass, go to Target, go strike back. I know they're all small amount of days, but there's so many options to make in December. You can conk all the way until the end, but come January, all the way to April, there's nothing.
I got no problem with the winter.
So,
I
no, I know, I got you, but I'm
just-
just saying, so if it did rain, at least you have 4 or 5 other things to go set back on.
But not everybody does. See, most of the guys that I talk to, and that's not me, but most of the guys, that's all they do. They don't participate in other fisheries. So when they lose those days, they lose those days.
If I could diversify. I probably would do.
And here's the other part of it. Most of the guys that are diversified, they fishing out of a smaller boat. So now they gotta, switch over all their gear. They gotta do this, they gotta do that. It becomes counterproductive. Okay, I fish multiple fisheries. I get it. I have to. But what I'm saying is my issue is the 1 day a week thing. You could potentially lose more time than not.
So when we get back.
but it's, well, I mean, as a concession possibly, I mean, I don't think anyone would have a problem if there was the first available Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and that would open up, much more opportunity, let's say.
So you're saying on a rolling type.
Right, maybe keep it, keep it on a Tuesday, but so if they say it was closed Tuesday, you get 7 days, you're gonna open Tuesday, open Tuesday, say it rained like the next day, so then it's only 1 day, if you get the Wednesday, still get it, you know what I mean? It would open up the opportunity. Only reason I did the 1 fixed day, like a Tuesday, was because I know DEM kind of likes to have more of a schedule, just keeping that in mind.
I get it too, but it's a. What, well, I'm sorry, what are the odds if it's just this one day, it's like 50%? And
Yeah, the half
55?
inch, ballpark, if it's a single day, about 50% of the days will go away, so you have, what, 41 days? You
Yeah.
add that all up?
Yeah.
On average, and we know there's wet years and dry years, but over long periods of time, half of the days will be closed. If you bump it up to a rolling day, like first available, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, whatever. The odds of being open bump from 50 to 70,
70?
roughly. That's at a half inch closure.
Yeah.
So you do gain.
So, let me just ask you this then, if let's say it was like Monday to Wednesday, like a rolling opening, and you kept it within those 3 days, would that knock it down to like say 60? Possibly, and it kind of would, right?
Yeah, somewhere in that, I guess you have to run through that.
Mine was Monday through Wednesday. We even less, it's now even less.
Yeah, I mean, I actually was, I kind of wanted to just go with Monday, but it conflicts with Monday holidays, and I know they don't want them open on the holidays, so I went with the Tuesday, and that is the day, like, the 4th of July, obviously, people want a lot of stuff, you get 2 days in a row, you know what I mean, you can handle that, and then the other holidays. I mean, like I said, it can certainly be adjusted. I think that's kind of the gist of the words. Basically, 1 day a week for, 6, 7 months.
I just want to say for winter, I'm not against it. I'm not a fan of it. Marketing conditions are horrendous. But I think the big difference between this is east and west. I think a lot of the guys that are around us, they're going to Greenwich to have a week. Whereas Tony's and the guys up there are not getting any of that product. So that's a big difference between the two. When you get 3 days of Greenwich, now you add a day in the river, whether that's on the same day as Greenwich, it could be 3 days in Greenwich, 1 day in the river, or whatever, 3 days in Greenwich, 1 day in the river. That's a lot of product to get rid of in January, February, where it's absolutely dead. January, there's nothing going on. February picks up a little bit with Valentine's Day, but
Those are all Mondays. So yeah, you will catch the Valentine's Day, and you'll catch, don't get,
you know what
I mean? Handful of years ago.
Maybe that's not to say, I'm just
I mean,
saying that between your side and our side.
No, there is, but the intent of that is to be able to utilize days like we couldn't do this year, we lost those 3 days, and now they're gonna pile them onto this year.
Well, to me, my opinion would be, I know it's up to you guys on the fishing side, but like, if this was to happen January, February, March, I can promise you the price isn't gonna be what it is at something in summer. It crashed in the summer.
Yeah, sure, that's right.
On that side.
I mean,
Would you rather have the money, the higher price, the better, better catch rate in the
there's no read on the phone.
I'm just saying, there's a big difference where it's like, I agree, I commend you guys for going out there and shit, but.
Arguing about how everybody's been going this winter, there's no bananas out there.
No, I know.
Alright, so we'll do John, then Mike, then Dave.
Well, I was just thinking with the extra days, if you have the 2 days of summer, and you have it by day. I know my deal told us last summer, we had 2 days in a row, the price went down, he said, Don, you better hope for rain. Goes, I don't know if I wanna wow that day. So that could be a loss of the day. If we have a dry summer and all the consecutive days, we don't even want the stuff.
Mike?
Just wanna point out that both proposals support winter openings. One's 2 hours, one's 3 hours. And to Dave's point, I'll just reiterate the number from last year, and all we have is what's happened to go evaluate. We would have had 8 openings if we did 1 day a week last year for the summer. And because we did 2 days, we had 13. We put together 21 days, I think there's potential 40 days for the normal cycle. So that kind of fits the 50% thing. So, I mean, they're not that big a difference there between the two. It's just, I just think it's You know, for the majority of the fishery, it's best to try to capture when the market's best in the July, August time.
So last year we would have had 8 days, you said, but the year before, which was extremely dry, right? The polar
We had
opposite.
28.
We had 28. What, do you know what we would have had? You would have had if it was 1 day a week, would you got the whole 18 or 21 or?
Probably in half. So I don't think we had many off weeks then, so you can just do the math, June, July, August, that's
Mhm.
12
Yeah,
weeks. So an extra day is 12 days. So it might have been around, what, 16?
16. And it started.
That's just off the top.
Right, and it started 1 month later, right? Cause it started June. Last 2 years,
Well,
you started in
late, the
June.
end of May,
Okay.
Memorial Day,
Okay.
so it would have been.
I'm just trying to kind of.
Well,
break down,
that's the
like-
point, and who the hell knows? you
Right,
know?
I mean, you have one extreme and then another.
You know, and
so.
deals are different, they have different markets, different, you know, it's really tough to try to,
Yeah.
fit them all in, but we have both similar, like I said, we're not that far apart as far as what we're asking for, and we both want to see a winter opening. We're just a little more concerned about the,
Like,
Um,
you-
Go ahead.
When you had your winter thing, it said 2 hours a day, 6 bushels, was that intended to be 4 to get those 3 days? Like, you know what I'm saying? 3 days at 4 a day for the winter? It said 6.
no, it'd be the days that we laid out, but we were gonna convert the 3-hour and leftover days, if there are, to 2 hours.
Right, but the bushel one that stayed at 6.
We would say it's 6, yes.
Drop it to 4, and you add 2 more days to it? I thought.
Well, there has been support on my side, I mean, this is why we're here and stuff, but basically, and I always go back and I'm just repeating, it's the full-time fishermen I'm worried about. They're honest, they have to make a living on the bay, so if it's 3 bushels, I know guys will be leaving at 9 o'clock. Right, and who's staying there? It's the other 175 guys that Connor showed you that are there that aren't. I mean,
Yeah, well,
where there's 40, 50 guys normally, and then you have 125 guys show up, and they're not following the rules for the most part. Plus, I know I'm jumping a little bit, Anna, were you able to find out how many of the licenses were actually the lower level license? I had asked about the over 65 and the student license. Because, I think 20% of the guys have a 3 bushel license that are fishing there.
Yeah, the over 60.
Yeah, and if you, I just kind of showed me a chart, man, everybody's between 63 and 70. That's where we're at right now, so I think a lot of guys are transitioned to the 3 bushels, some guys can't catch the full 6 bushels. For various reasons, but I'm just trying to protect the guy that makes a living out there, and he's going in at 9:30 with his 3 bushels, and those guys are staying there and sticking them under the deck or, whatever they're doing. So that's why we've been pretty consistent in that.
All right, while she's looking for that, we'll go to Dave McCoon, and then we also have someone on Zoom.
Yeah, I just want to say I agree with, reconfiguring the hours in the winter. To 2 hours, and that would probably make 6 bushels, particularly on a cold winter, with part of the catch, they're deeper. Kind of a moot point, you might catch 3 bushels, 4 bushels in 2 hours. Or whatever. But I also want to mention that, oftentimes in the winter, where I sell at Tony's, you go in after a weather drought. And you go in there to sell, and there'll be a pallet of plants from Willis Wharf, Virginia. So he's still doing business. And, he's not getting them from us. So, it's not, I would rather have the 25 times 2,000 than 3 or 4 times 30. 300 times 30, 400, 500. I'm just saying, I just want to make it consistent with it. And, I'm getting older, things are going down as we all are probably, but, it was a tough year in spite of that place. So, I agree with the, having something to do in the winter, definitely.
Over to Ken.
I have a question. How many days are in the summer proposal and proposal one? So I counted this one as 34. It just seems very unlikely to me with the first proposal that there will be days left over. I guess you never really know how it's gonna rain. But I find the winter to be very important, as do a lot of other people. I would even support some sort of guaranteed days for the winter. I don't think we should be hoping for extra days, but proposal 2 seems a little more conservative, so more likely to have rollover days. Oh, I don't know if you can click that.
Yeah, sorry.
I'll count as fast as I can. There's
Yep.
34 in this one.
Ours was 40. Was 40 for the, if you divide by 50, that's 2021, right?
Plus December though, because, yeah, the 34.
Well, the December is a side.
Okay, so this one is 29, because we're throwing out the 5 in December, 22 to 29 in the summer.
Can you?
Sorry, I'm just trying to minimize and go back. There we go.
And as we know, it's a crapshoot. July, if you remember, the week before July, we didn't get a day, and it was that Tuesday, I think we got in. That was the one day we got in. You know, for the whole week of. So to Dave's point, you have a Friday before the 4th that we put in there. It could open on a Thursday, you still get a Friday in. And then you get the next, you know, it could rain that night and then you don't get nothing. And it's kind of how we seem to be working lately, so having the extra days is almost like Dave was saying, you don't miss them. They're there, and you know, you need, and there's always potential.
It just seems to me with 40 days between. Not including December and the winter versus 29, there's a much more higher likelihood we'll see winter days in proposal 2 than proposal 1.
Oh, for sure.
It's the most important thing I've heard throughout.
Yeah, I mean,
It's something that we've been focused on.
we could, you know, combine these two plans, like you said, they're not far apart. And make, you know, some adjustments and make it work for everybody, you know what I mean? You know, like you said, we're gonna have 21 days plus the 3 for Greenwich, is what we're gonna have, because we're gonna roll those 3 days over from last year, correct?
Well, that was what I talked to Connor about. That is what he agreed to in front of everybody here, which is good. And because what happened was there was a screw up last year where we tried to get the 3 days back. Okay, we'll get the details, but everybody said, Mike, we got to get it. You know, they're never going to give them back to us. And I said, no. Once they gave us a number, we can get them back. And once they gave us a number of 18, that changed the ball game as far as what you can ask for. So that's why, okay, 18, 21. And like I said, after this year, if we have a freaking normal summer, where we see, okay, Mike, this was too aggressive, because we used them all up by September, let's say. You know, okay, a little too aggressive. Well, now we kind of have some more data in there, you know, more information. Okay, let's be a little less aggressive. And frankly, I'd like to see what I propose, or even what you propose. Just like 2 years ago, take away the counting. This is now how we want to access Area E. We don't want the rainfall of too much or too little or too this or too that, screw up an industry that the guys depend on. So that's kind of what Dave asked the question where we're headed. You know, I think eventually 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, maybe to more, but I think putting this thing or yours and just not count the days is where we need to be as an industry.
Not for nothing, but why are we using the day? Why don't we just, you have both sides of the bay here? Why don't we just say, give us those days in the winter, 2 hours? Are you guys okay with 2 hours? Yeah. Why don't you just give us those days in the winter? Keep the proposals the way they are and just go February or whatever day voting you're starting, February, March, put those days in there and a proposal that all the fishermen want. Not the 2 proposals going to.
Well, regardless of what we use prior to that.
Yeah, so just go in and say, this is our winter schedule. And let the council make a decision on that. Now you got both sides of the bay, you have all the fishermen making a decision. Not go with 2 proposals.
I support that. We're just kind of working off the days thing, but that's what I just said. That this I agree with you, I agree with you, I agree.
You go to 2 bushels, you make everybody happy, and you
2
get.
hours.
I mean, 2
No.
hours. But I mean, why don't you just- It's a mind book, and just then wonderful.
You preach it to the choir, I'll stop there, I agree, I agree. I would like, I'd like to stop counting days, to tell you the truth.
We have someone on Zoom that's been waiting patiently.
All right, they have two comments. First one, a suggestion, every other management area is 3 bushel limit. The average harvest for the past 3 years is approximately 7 million pounds. Do 2 days per week with a 3 bushel limit starting May 7 until the 7 million pounds is reached. The second comment is, are you more worried about how many days you get or the total poundage harvested?
Question for me.
Seems like it.
I missed the first part, but the days are approximate for trying to ensure that, that the total target catch is achieved. So, I think that the days are how we're using it, because over the 3 years, there's been a lot of discussion about using a schedule to manage as opposed to another metric. Total clams plus harvested or something else. So we're trying to use from a biology side what we do to inform sustainable management of the more typical fishery in the context of cohorts. So yes, I guess that's the answer to the part B is, yeah, what was the first part on it?
Yeah, so the first part was every other management area is 3 bushel limit. The average harvest for the past 3 years is approximately 7 million pounds. Do 2 days per week with a 3 bushel limit starting May 7 until the 7 million pounds is reached.
I guess, maybe what I'll say is that I think like a year-round schedule that you're talking about is much more possible at 3 bushel. I don't know if that's exactly what that says. So that's a discussion you have to have. You don't have to have today, but like, I think the 6 bushel limit is obviously very unique to all co-op management areas, in terms of the shellfish management area. And I understand all the reasons why we've arrived where we are with that. And I appreciate Mike's other comments on it, but I do think that that is done at the expense of then perhaps more days, multiple weeks around year. But I think that's just part of the calculus for you all in terms of what you want to see.
How easy would it be to check 175 boats that all leave at the same time?
Go ahead.
So why couldn't we take some of the May openings? Okay, from proposal 1, because May is kind of the dead month anyway, right? Market wise, why couldn't we take some of those May openings and then bring those over to the winter harvest schedule? Right, so we start a little bit later, let's say in June, and then add those days into the winter, but then either adjust the time limit or the bushel limit, which I can't believe I just said that, the time limit, yes. And then go into the winter and then afford more days into the winter schedule, right? So more than what you're talking about, but add maybe even a little bit more. And then, so we're just taking days, say I'm just looking at proposal 1 and shift them over to that winter. And that way we got more days in the winter and we start later when the market can bear the 2 days a week a little bit easier.
What about a couple days out of July and August and see, testing down the road?
And wait, before we get there, I like what you had to say, but when we tried to have a winter opening, and at the council, we voted to approve the winter opening, then you guys came back because there was, some questionable, it had to come back to the council, you all voted against it. How is this any different than?
Well, again, it's a work in progress. Okay, so we saw what we were afraid of, Katie, was the fact that we were gonna crush the market, okay, in the winter. So that's why we decided not to do that.
Okay.
But this year has proven
that's probably not going to happen. Getting input from these guys is really valuable because they're telling us, don't, the bags roll off the machine, they're gone. I get that. So my thing is, and I'd like to see that winter opening myself personally, but my thing is, okay, if we know notoriously that May's a soft month market-wise, some of the dealers are saying that, you know, it's right after the school ends, it gets real busy, so the market could absorb those 2 days, and if we took some of those days and then shifted them into the winter harvest schedule, giving us more availability in the winter, I think that might be something that would work.
Okay.
For both parties.
The only
Okay.
thing on your May is call on week, that's the only thing on social media the state promotes.
Yeah, but
I know I
that's,
don't wanna bring it in, but you're talking, you're having, I'll call it 100 restaurants sign up for Fall Hog Week.
yeah, but we've
Out of
done
that
it, we've done
100,
it
how
for
many are
years.
Virginia products?
We've done it for years, and actually it got shifted to me, it was used to be earlier than that, okay? Cause I used to help out with that thing a lot. So that was earlier, and we, yes, there was always a problem getting Fall Hogs, okay? That adjusts yearly, so my point is, I'm not worried so much about one event, I'm worried about the total sum of the game. So if we need more days in winter, let's take them from area, from this particular slot and move them over to that slot. And that way we've got a little bit better, a chance of attaining more days in the winter in case we have a rain closure or something like that.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
We still have concerns about the 2 days in the summer, but very much still, and I mean, that can get, you know.
But if we can't get a rolling day, John, then we'd lose in 2 to 3 days, 2 to 3 on a rolling, you know, it's a roll of the dice.
I'm not against the rolling day, I mean.
But yeah, but you're not, and I'm not, but enforcement definitely came out and they were not happy with it. It was too hard for them to manage. And I'm only going by past experience on that too, because I like that, but we would get that first available day back, that was great. But they squashed that the second year out.
I wonder if we could switch to like instead of first available day, would be like Tuesday or Thursday, it'd be a little more scheduled for enforcement. And it still gives us that flexibility of if it opens from a rain closure on a Wednesday, you're still gonna get a day that week.
Yeah, any thoughts?
Just a thought.
If it was Monday or Wednesday, we're not doing that much of that, but, you know, it's just gonna go and.
Okay.
I mean, that makes a big difference, right? That's gonna add 10 or 15% or maybe more. Opportunity to get in, right?
If that's the language, it works that way. Yeah, yeah.
None of us know how it's gonna work.
I know your point. It's like a lot of speculation, you know?
Yeah, just one quick thing, what you asked about the winter openings, and part of that whole thing coming up was what Mike's group came up with the 2 hours. And going every other week instead of every week. So it was just like, hey, we can't deal with this. A whole bunch, you know, where they got together, they discussed it and they came up with a solution that would alleviate those concerns that they had from this past.
Okay, and I understand that, and I can see how that's your response, and especially after this past winter, but they're, considering adding even more to the schedule that you guys have for winter, and I just want to see something that's bulletproof, because that will go in front of the council, and majority of people will kind of be in consensus, and then if it does have to revisit the council like this, like it did last year, then it's not gonna just completely fail because everyone changes their mind. So, Brennan.
I just want to say, if Jerry's idea was possible, you know, it's a better option. I just don't see the reasoning in taking away days from the summer, put on in the winter. I mean, even in May, you know, it's slower, but it's 10 times better than it is in February or March. And I understand the need of fish in those months as well. I get it. And if that's something you can add on top of that, you know, that I'm in. But to take away from the summer it doesn't make any sense.
Well, they're giving us a certain amount of days or hours, so we have to play with the amount that they're giving us. So we can't add it because it'll get shot down. So to me, I'd rather be able to make money in February, to be honest with you, because that's when everything comes due. That's when all sorts of bills come in after Christmas. You know, but economically, that's when it's tougher to pay our bills. So even if there's a price drop, which I'm sure there will be, I'd still rather go out there and make a day's pay than to sit on the beach saying, well, it's too windy, I can't go over there. These guys have gotta go through 2 days to get over to Greenwich. So I definitely would like to see more time in the winter.
I get that, and even with the 1 day proposal, now you get ringing, it goes for 2 weeks. I mean, usually when you find stuff for convenient, that closes for 2 weeks. You can be fine triple of what you have in there. I mean, it doesn't,
Yeah, I mean,
you're closing it in the best possible market of the year.
You say that with a price drop.
no, but when, you know, the thing is, like, you know. It's hard to go, when I walk in the shop and see 2 pallets of Virginia product there. That's gonna go to a restaurant and, you know, end up on somebody's plate and none of us know this.
No offense, but I bet you he's paying 18, 19 cents for those.
Yeah, I know, I know, how that works, I've been in this business my whole life, and it's like, I think, personally, to have a consistent product on the market helps the industry, it isn't about me or this guy or that guy, it's about the industry as a whole. That Rhode Island clams are going on the market all the time, instead of agriculture clams from the state.
I agree,
on
but
the East
this
Coast.
is also a half inch, so there's no set.
Right,
You
and
know,
other states
there's
have
nothing
that same.
Now it can close for 3 weeks, now what do you expect to do with it?
Right, but that's for wild card. None of us know. There's not one guy in here that knows what day it's gonna rain next summer, and I don't. Mike doesn't, Jerry doesn't, Dave doesn't, none of us.
No, rain the day we don't want it to rain.
Right. I mean, so.
That's a given.
But only, you know. I mean, it's up to all of us to come up with a reasonable idea that's just. Kind of makes everybody happy in some way, you know what I mean?
I'm okay with that, I just don't want to take away.
I know, but.
I agree with you on that, stay away from the summer, but don't have too many consecutive days with the summer. I deal with it, he told me, he said, you better hope for rain, because I don't know if I can handle another day.
We did the rolling days, they had 2 days in a row, that's what still everything. We don't have those rolling days anymore, we're not gonna have the back to back.
Even this time of year. The other day.
No, but that's what I'm saying, 1 day a week in the summer. And hopefully we get enough days. We're only gonna get 18 days, right? No matter, you know what I mean, if it was open every day,
21.
or whatever, 21, if it was open every day with the rolling day, we might be done by the end of summer.
Isn't that case, when you go to the council, isn't that a recommendation? I mean, this is like Fish and Wildlife, they say, they put the cap on it, can't council say they add extra days?
They can recommend to the director more days.
They can do that, that's why I'm saying, just add that, what's the schedule, if there isn't any days left from that, we'll have that, I'm just saying, if we just add more. Like, all they can do is say, no.
I think that's a very good suggestion, and it kind of gets to the direction that we want to go to.
Yeah.
This is a permanent schedule that we can bend on and know, so I think it's a really good,
And we can have that.
really good, whether you like 1 or 2.
That'll be there every winter we'll have that, that'll be in the books, and we can F around with this stuff.
Yep.
Everybody trying to be God and see what's gonna rain, well, every year, but then we have the winter schedule set.
I think that's a great, just like we did with December.
Yes.
We set aside December because it's such an important time. I think we should, that's a great suggestion with that,
Okay.
that we make that. And frankly, the 21 days, and we could argue they're very similar proposals. It just depends on ours. We might use it up a little sooner. It'd be done in September, October. Or yours, we might go right to the end of October. So, but I think there was concern raised that Dave did, that Jerry is addressing. That we still wanna capture days in the winter, so I don't think we should futz around with the May 6th, we both want it open in May. I mean, your proposal and ours, so I think I would make a suggestion that regardless of what we support here, I like Jerry's thought of.
Third proposal.
There we go.
Make a third proposal just for the winter.
Okay. Katie, there's a gentleman, Katie, there's a gentleman there that.
Yes. Okay,
You participated in a grant,
Yeah, but let's be.
so Anna has this slide prepared. We can fill it out with whatever, however you guys would like to see a motion to be made, and we can turn this into a motion that if
I just want to throw one last thing out, and then I'll stay quiet. Back into that, but, no, seriously, I was just talking about it, right? So if we looked at our proposal from the Shellfishermen's Association, right, we start on the 6th, we go the 13th and the 20th, if we took those two first openings, okay? Because that's only one day, we took those two first openings, or even 3 of them, up until the 20th, okay? You take those hours and divide it to Mike's point by 2, right? Now, we can throw those into the winter harvest schedule, that gives us an availability of, what, 6 more days?
We're saying 2 hours on.
2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, but to add up to those, those 3 days. So start that opening just a little bit later than we were gonna do.
I thought you meant 2 hour opening, 2 hour opening. 2 hour
No,
opening.
I'm not-
So
I'm
that's
saying-
3 hours here, and then you go to October. And you make those 2 hour, 2 hour, 2 hour, 2 hours. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more hours worth.
Wow, I'm thinking of shifting time into that little bit of a winter slot, that kind of thing.
Well, I think-
I was saying.
What I think Jerry's trying to say is, we should do, just like I said, the December openings, make the winter openings that, they're set aside. So it doesn't matter when we start in May,
Yeah, let's just,
so it doesn't matter when we start in May, or if it's June or whatever. The 21 days will be used, and then, but those were guaranteed the December and the.
Is there enough, Mike, is there enough hours in that winter schedule to satisfy what these guys are looking for, and basically I am too? Is there enough time?
Well, 2 hours is less than 3, so we get more days in.
Right, but I mean, what we have
Sorry,
on
the winter,
that
or-
docket as far as winter time, is there enough time to spread that out where now we've got 2 hour openings where we're actually doing some good?
I'm not quite sure, but I think what we're saying is that the 21 days will be counted from May to October. And then the December opening will be a separate opening, and the winter opening will be a winter opening. The council might say, oh, well, you wanna do that, we're only gonna give you 18 days instead of 21. So there might, you know what I mean, there might be a buyback of what you're talking about. But I love Jerry's suggestion, I think we really gotta find out what this area, what happens in the winter time for the marketing.
Yeah.
And I think the 2 hours is a good compromise to try to figure that out. So I'll stop there, but I think it's set aside.
I think it's time that we just go and say, look, this is, this is when, the meat is here, The guys that are here that are working every day, 2 hours. You're not gonna see a lot of guys, with their open days that come out just in the winter, in the summertime, run up there in January, February.
For 2 hours.
I think we want to find out when you keep some of those part-time.
What's the weather? Well, yeah, both of them, I'm just saying, if everybody goes in with just, you know what I mean, with the muscle, instead of just like say, East Bay, West Bay.
Yeah, no, I don't wanna do that. I wanna get a compromise.
you think
for
like
all
twice a
of
month
us.
in the winter?
I don't care whatever schedule you wanna do, whatever schedule is there.
There was 5 guys at the Marine Fishery Council last time when we discussed
Yeah,
this stuff. To Jerry's point.
yeah, every other week. It's just like-
Yeah.
that's what it says.
Why is everybody letting us stay inside this little box? Why don't we challenge the dredge survey and add divers to it? Dr. Rice will tell you, that's what's done before.
We wanna get it done this year.
Go ahead.
I know everybody here knows it's one stuff that. John was saying, we're in a little box, and he came up with the rolling days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah.
But Monday was problematic because of the holidays. So we essentially have a rolling Tuesday and Wednesday. Now, we're talking about 63 hours.
Okay.
Right, so and this is the gift so far. So you divide that up, now if you had 2 hour days, even in the summer, but they were both Tuesday and Wednesday. Some weeks you would get on just one of them, some days you get 2 of them, some days you get 2 hours, some days you get 4 hours, instead of just 3 hours.
Yeah.
So that would be divided that way, but we would probably get in there a little more consistently, but it'd only be a 2 hour day, and a 2 hour day, we basically forget about 6 bushel limit. It wouldn't be a big deal. They wouldn't have to go check 150 bullets or setting, whatever ends up in it, and it might keep some of the part-time.
So you're saying alternating,
I'm saying 2 hours a day, both Tuesday and Wednesday.
okay, oh, okay.
So we can keep the Monday and Wednesday, there's not that many Monday holidays, so it's good to have time. I ran by the 2 hour thing to my membership, they weren't quite ready, other than the winter time, to try it. I thought it solved some problems, I think it solved, the 6 bushel and overboard. I counted the days, we would get 28 days instead of 18. If you're still counting days. So I thought there was some real positives to switching everything to 2 hours, but there wasn't enough support among my members. And to the point you just made, I think it's really important. If you have two 2 hour openings, Monday, Wednesday, that's 4 hours you're getting. If you're only doing 1 day a week, it's 3 hours. So you're actually gaining an hour and you're still not over as opposed to 6 hours if you did twice a week. So I thought that was a good solution going forward. But most of the guys I talked to full timers, they said they needed the 3 hours. So I don't disagree with what you said. It's just, it was hard to get the members to.
Depends how far you can travel for this and all that.
Yeah, so it's for me, it's $25, $30 gas day and and everything else, but I just thought it would kind of reduce the number of part-timers.
Yeah.
And also would increase the number of days that they would give us. And you don't have to touch the 6 bushel, because it kind of takes itself. A good fisherman, the guys that do it every day, they might get their 6 bushels, but the part-timers probably not.
Okay.
So.
If it's shitty over here, you get screwed when you can.
Get another day to try.
Do you want to put the other slide back up? Yeah,
I wanna make a winter schedule suggestion.
okay,
So I will take the December schedule from either one. I don't know if anybody has a preference, but I'm gonna do winter, December and winter as its own proposal, as to keep it out of the set number of days.
okay.
So I'm gonna expand the December, how December is now, basically. Cause I think it's needed. I like the 2 hours. It helps alleviate the concern with the market, a little less product going in. I do think it will result in less part-timers. People whose boats aren't in the water ready to fish aren't gonna get their boat ready to fish for a 2 hour opening in the middle of winter.
Do you have any thoughts on a schedule?
Yeah, about every other week. I don't care which day it is, Monday or Tuesday.
So an expanded version starting in February? Or the fifth, starting in February
That's fine. I'm open to input. I'm kind of making something apply.
until it runs out?
Yeah,
Starting February 10th, till it runs out. Do you have a preference of day?
no, does anybody?
Monday is President's Day.
Until,
Tuesday.
Open to suggestions.
Well, if you keep it on Mondays, that coincides with Greenwich, which you can't go to 2 places at
Right,
once.
right.
If it's a Monday holiday.
And I don't think President's Day is a big enough holiday. It's not like the other ones.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Is that our only Monday holiday?
Monday's fine.
Do you work on
Monday.
President's Day, Jeff? Do you work on President's Day?
they work every day.
Okay. Okay, Mondays
So
it is.
Monday.
Yeah, that was our suggestion on the one.
Okay. So this is overlapping with both of your schedules?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a separate from.
It looks like we've evolved to working backwards. So right now we're setting a winter schedule.
And this has nothing to do with Christmas?
The December schedule,
It's gonna be included in it because this whole proposal is exempt from the days that they're counting.
Yeah, but I thought December is automatic rebate,
Yes,
so that should be separate.
it's gonna be part of that, because these are also gonna be automatic, they're not gonna be subject to if we don't fill our days.
So if we don't fill it in, they won't be added.
Yeah, we're talking 2025.
No,
yeah,
That's what we're
this
talking.
is 2025.
So
Yeah.
that's, you just say 2025. That's,
Yeah.
So it has nothing.
We put it down as winter harvest schedule. As
Yeah,
opposed to holidays.
my only question is, like, if there are days of, use either one of our schedules for the summer, if there's days left. And we already have this,
but there might not be days left, that's what we're kind of talking about, what Jerry's point
Yeah.
was. That we think that a winter opening is worthy of guarantee,
Yeah.
and, you know,
Yeah.
so.
Fine.
Like I just said, it so depends on if the 21, how fast we use those 21 days. You know, our schedule
Right.
or yours.
I mean, if we set a precedent this year, if we have unused days for our schedule, we can roll it into the next go round.
Well, that's
If
seems to be
they're
the precedent that
allowing
we're
us to
setting
do it.
here.
Yeah, I do like the idea of capturing the extra days, but I can't jive that with the idea of like,
Well,
it seems like we made a big point that winter is
well,
important.
no, you don't need to capture the extra days because we're already scheduling them in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no,
That's the point.
All right,
So the whole capturing of extra days is a moot point, kind of just doesn't matter. So you basically want 21 openings from May or late May or whatever we decide till October. Either one day a week or an aggressive summer schedule.
So how many days are you looking?
through March, where did both of the original winter proposals at? I'm kind of trying just to make it.
Mine was 2 days a week, so, I mean,
So
if it's not in January, if you know,
This is
So this
number
one's 2
two.
April.
I mean, if you wanna drop January, just start February, and go
That's-
February, March, April. I think
That's what ours was.
Yeah.
Let's do that then.
2 weeks on a Monday.
Please do that. It's John's schedule minus,
All right, then do that.
minus the January
That's
27th.
Before Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's
So
Day.
do you want me to list these specific dates?
Yep,
Are those 2 days that we
just
decided on?
subtract January 27th.
Yeah. Oh, they're Mondays. That's
No,
what
those
that's
are
what we
Mondays.
decided on.
Yeah, just use our language. We started on the 10th. But we actually list the days, the 10th, the 17th, March 3, 17th, 31, April 14th, and 28th.
So you're every
They're slightly
week,
different.
that's every week,
No, I think
You're
they were just
every other.
they were every other 2, they're just off on the weeks.
Yeah, we didn't start in January.
Oh, okay.
That's so everything else is the same.
So knock January off of that.
Yeah.
You can't see it, but she is running what you're talking about.
So this is, so we're proposing 6 days at 2 hours, so it's the equivalent of the 4 of the 3-hour days.
Right, the difference is we gotta guarantee and lock them in.
Yes.
I think
Yeah,
that's a
so
good
you-
idea.
You wanna stick with Mondays, Mike?
Yeah, that's only for.
Yeah, we did,
All right,
you know, but
yeah, cause you know, it coincides with Lent to keep
yes.
an extra day.
Do one or the other.
Yeah, fair.
What do you have there? Oh, making progress.
All right,
So the group is talking about the winter harvest schedule to lock it in at 2 hours on the dates that we discussed.
okay,
I was gonna add December to this just because it is also locked in, so you could group that all as one, and then do your summer schedule, which is subject to some sort of limit on dates.
okay,
I don't care.
December.
December's not locked in.
Yeah, I just
Which,
figured.
who are we picking for December? Whose
Yeah.
December schedule did you pick?
Okay.
We're adding this into this one.
Yep, it's all gonna be one motion.
Proposal I had, and the reason I think like this is because, like I said, none of us know when it's gonna rain. If we start earlier, like if you start like at the 15th or whatever the Wednesday is and stuff, if you get rain, then you just lose those 2 days and that's it. You already lost the opportunity in the beginning of the month. That you can't even, you never even had that opportunity, you know what I'm saying? It might have been dry in the beginning.
I understand, I
know
know my brother Tim sitting back there, they think if we started on the 9th, which was what a normal schedule would be too early. It's just the market's not ready to absorb it and the market wants fresh stuff. And
Absolutely, and this gentleman here, you know, for 2 hours a day, that was 2 days a week in summer. Yeah, I'm not opposed to that, I mean, I know, I'm a Christian at the end of the deal. And I know everyone wants the 3 hours, but he got more shots at it, and it goes against what our association wanted, this is me personally.
And you wouldn't have to count the days, because it'll be much higher. If
Yeah,
it's like 28 days as opposed to 18 or, actually, if you had the 3, it'd be like 32 days. If you go by the hour.
But I'm about to, for sure. Yeah, and I think it would be less likely to flood the market for 2 hours.
There you go.
And as far as December goes, yes, I agree, on the 10th is a little bit early.
All right, so what am I pulling?
like I said, just from what the way we did it, we put 2 of the days into the week before Christmas, you all know is, you know, the big to do. And they're Monday and Wednesday, well, actually, those are floating days, I'm sorry, they're floating days, so we're more likely to get them in. And just 1 week, the following week before New Year's Eve. So we still want 3 days then, but we just thought it'd be better to condense them closer to Christmas.
Again, yeah, the week of the second week of the ninth, there's no, everyone's gearing up for Christmas.
So,
So to put it any time between that is just.
so since we're working backwards, should we be talking and voting on the December schedule?
Yep. Yes,
And then.
okay, so can someone,
So we're adding this to the,
so do you wanna,
Stuff lasts a week. right?
we'll
So the
set,
night
put that on the same slide,
thing,
Okay.
it's
December.
not like you're gonna
Okay.
sell 'em.
Can you,
Ken was making the motion.
Yeah, but, well, the life of the,
The holiday.
the life of the
Holiday is
product.
26th. So what are you gonna do with them on the ninth? What am I gonna do?
Nobody
Nobody-
goes to, I
5 days.
mean, how many restaurants are open starting and just like not long after Thanksgiving, and that's when the Christmas stuff starts to happen, people are out, and they'll go to dinner, they go out, you know what I mean? I mean, I don't. You know, if you go by the Greenwich schedule, the Greenwich schedule would be what, the 11th?
Second Wednesday.
Yeah.
The 11th this
The
year.
11th.
Yeah.
So the 9th is the 2 days before that.
Right, so you have that opening up, then you would have Greenwich opening up after we've transplanted, you know, 50,000 pounds into that,
Yeah.
you know, and I just think, and then you'll just clear the price for the holidays, just.
I'm not taking the day away. I
No.
wanna put it in a week that we know that the price is gonna be
I have a
up.
lot- I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think the 9th to the 16th is no market for plants? I don't agree.
Not as much.
They want the fresh,
Yeah.
they don't
Well,
want
no.
stuff from, you know,
Yeah, but
I'll hold on and wait, I'll wait and buy it next week. Well, that doesn't help me this week, but I got cool full of stuff, it's gotta go somewhere.
Greenwich is open. No, Greenwich is open.
Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say, it sounds like we're getting like, we have people here, if we made a vote, I'd love to see someone make a motion for just December. We can hash that out.
Yeah.
Everyone can have their vote, and we can move on to February, and we can go back, you know,
okay,
that's what I'd love
So
to see, but.
can we solve February? Can I make a motion that we
okay. Put
lock
February-
in those February days at 2 hours? And we'll
Okay.
work backwards and just kind of figure this out.
I'll second it.
Okay. Hang on,
Yeah, that's fine.
So
Okay,
with
yeah.
our proposal, the 2 hour
Yeah,
this one?
openings
Yeah.
for the every other week.
it's up there,
Mine should have it.
Alright,
Yeah.
Perfect.
alright, so
every
Mike,
Monday, does it say 2 hours a day, 6 bushel limit?
for 2 hours.
8 to 10. Right,
Need it writing?
Yes.
That's the bottom part, is the.
thank you.
Yep, 8 to 10, 2 hours, 6 bushel limit.
Okay, motion made by Mike McGivney, second by Ken Mergo.
Does that look good?
Is that what it's printed there? Bruce is saying that's not what.
2025 openings to begin on February 10th, 2025, any, you have. These guys, this motion picks hard dates, you have if ands. Basically,
We're good, I think we're good with that.
Yes, okay, thank you.
okay,
Second by who?
Ken Mergo. I'm gonna do another roll call vote, that's the dark time with that phrase. Brennan Bika?
Yeah.
Dennis Erkin? Dave G? Jeff Grant?
Yes.
John McDonald?
Yes.
Mike McGivney?
Yes.
Ken Mergo?
Yes.
Gerald Chai?
Yeah.
Manuel Souza? Are you still here? No, he left. Roger Tellier? Ed Triano?
Yeah.
Everybody.
Just so we know, my guess is the 3 days we're asking extra are there. So
That would be a good, that would be a good trade.
but just a guess there. Yeah.
I think that would be a fair trade.
Okay, all right, so. Passed unanimously. Now would you like to work on December? Okay. Whatever
me
you're,
slide.
when you're,
You wanna keep it at 3 hours for December?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
okay,
I have a motion to keep the Shellfish meetings.
I'll second that.
okay, so if you can copy and paste the shellfish ones. Oh, it's right here, if you wanna just read it off that.
Just for this December. Yep.
Wow, right. You need my writing here for the, is it that one here?
Yeah, but I will need that,
This, yeah, this section. Yep, so that's what I got.
okay,
Oh, sorry, I just. Just try this. I'm gonna do this. There we go.
oh,
That's okay. I just have to type on the screen.
okay. Okay, so this is the motion we have for the December schedule. It's been seconded, made by Mike McGivney. Did you make it?
Brandon really let it.
Brennan made the motion,
Mike second.
second by Mike. Just make sure everybody's read it before you vote. If there's no discussion on the motion, then we will go to a vote.
I can't see it. It's the same thing we talked about,
Yeah.
Their proposal for Risa, yeah.
That's all I need to.
It's,
thank you.
yeah, the rise proposal, verbatim.
Yeah, sorry.
your glasses are on top of your head.
Okay, so I'll move to a vote. Brendan Vika,
Yeah.
Dennis Erkin. I'll go slow on this one. Dave G,
Yes.
Jeff Grant.
Yeah.
John McDonald,
Yes.
Mike McGivney,
Yes.
Ken Margo,
Yes.
Harold Shy.
Yep.
Roger Collier,
Yes.
Ed Triano.
Yeah.
The motion passed unanimously. Okay. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 1 abstention. Okay. So now we'll move on to the spring, summer, fall.
It's.
Right.
Yes.
Mike mentioned that he was thinking that they would take those 3 days that we would added on. If they're gonna take them, if we get a choice on what days they take.
Well, that's the choice we're making now. Well, basically, anything we propose to be open, that's a chance it will be open.
I mean, if we can discuss it, I would take the first day that we had on there in May, and the last 2 in October. That's.
Well, no, not the last 2 in October, just the May one, because you never know at the end if we're gonna use them.
Cause those would be the ones taken anyway. If you hit the number, those would be done anyway.
It could be done in September.
If you wanted the May one done, you just take that off and then just let it run, and it would be the same as doing that.
Not that I want to off, I just don't want to try to figure a compromise.
Well, we're trying to pick the best 21 days that would be good for the market, or good for us, or good, you know.
So we're looking at 21 days total, correct? This is what-
I wanna add that number
Is
to
this
it.
what we're
I
asking?
don't think you had a number.
I had the,
It was,
I don't,
The 21 with 15%.
yeah.
Yeah, 21 is what we were asking
Yeah.
for.
Okay, so 21 days.
21 days.
So I'm just picking out the easy stuff first.
Yeah.
21 days, 3 hour openings, 8 to 11, 6 push, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and now what's left to do is decide which of these days will be that lucky 21.
Now,
Or,
just to clarify though, the days that we're picking, we still don't know if it's gonna rain or not,
Right.
so we gotta make them available
mhm.
and let it fly from there.
Right. I think we got 40 days that we.
You guys have 40 potentials, 10, yes,
Mike mentioned that the 3 days from last year might be the cost of our winter proposal, so it might actually be 18 and not 21.
okay.
I guess, if that's a fair point, I think.
Or we can just ask for 21 and see what happens.
That's right.
I think that
You know,
was Jerry's idea,
yeah.
right? This is,
Yes,
Well, you can talk about that.
Sounds good, right.
so 21, you're asking for 21 days. Now you guys have to pick a schedule.
I have a suggestion.
Yes, right?
No, I don't know, does it matter for you guys Monday or Tuesday? Like, my proposal was Tuesdays.
I put it out there, the dealers thought Monday was better. We adjusted the Monday holidays, so it was open on a Tuesday. Okay.
Yeah. It was, yeah, but
Like Memorial Day, Monday, we didn't want it open,
right,
so we did the 28th, which was a Tuesday.
okay,
The 4th of July, I don't think there's really any,
no, cause Monday and Tuesday are.
right? And then Labor Day was the same thing, you know.
All
We
right.
didn't, it wasn't a Monday, it was a Tuesday, so that's why we chose the actual date. So we didn't have to keep on switching the Mondays.
Yeah.
And just to reiterate, we're gonna lose a lot more with a designated day, like Dave said, so. You know, if we're gonna lose 50%, we might wanna ask for 40 days, at least.
Yeah, like my proposal has 29 days, and that's the 3 extra days, for Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Labor Day. But they're on Tuesday.
That's
Right,
50%, so you're at 14.5 days.
Right.
I know that, but what I'm trying to do is come up with something that,
Right.
right, so if you wanna go with Monday, we switch like this day to Monday, just keep those same dates, May.
But to Dave's point, what we're saying is, what happens if it's open on a Tuesday? You lose it, cause it's, the Monday it's open, or let's say it's a Tuesday, and it opens on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
It rains over the weekend, and then you don't get it at all.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been the problem. 4th of July last year, we got it one day before, it was like that Monday or whatever.
No, I know, but either way, if it's Monday or Tuesday, we're still gonna have the same problem, right?
But if you have 2 days, you have more options.
Right, so what I'm saying is if you just, let's try to agree on the one day and add days into it. You follow me?
Well, that's kind of what we did. June was 1 day a week.
Yeah.
September was 1 day a week. October is 1 day a week. We
Right.
didn't juice it up to the last 2 weeks in June,
Right,
which are the ones leading up to 4th,
yeah,
and then for the summertime.
So what day would you like? Like I said, we'll pick one day, so if we wanna have it Monday, September, October.
Well, ours was Monday, Wednesday is what our proposal.
Okay, so then it's that, and then that brings us to 20 days, and we need to fill in a handful of days, so if you think 2 days before that July first, we could throw another day in for the 4th of July, burn a day there. Or a day or two before Labor Day, burn a day there, and then you make your quota.
I think they're very similar, so I think we're fighting about.
Yeah, no.
But the point is, I'd rather burn the days before September than have the days into September. You know what I'm saying? I just think it's, you know, the markets will be looking better. And if it's a wet month, you guarantee that you're gonna try to capture those days, whatever they are, into the fall.
Okay. So that's, so. Can I see your, put that one back up, the proposal two, can I see your proposal one? Just so I can, we can look at both of them at the same time, thank you. So. Okay. Can I write on this? Okay, so right now you're talking about.
We both
Keeping,
start the same day. He
Yep.
says right, mine's
Well,
6, this is 7.
right.
They both start the same day.
Yep,
We both do 1 day a week. Up till the Memorial Day weekend, and we both add days there.
yep,
And then ours goes to the end of June, the 3rd week. I was told 30 years ago that it doesn't start till Father's Day, the market. Kids get out of school. Yeah, 3rd week of June. That's when we went to 2 days. The next week is the week before the 4th. 4th is on a Thursday, so it's kind of screwy. But we were gonna go with a Monday, Wednesday, and then we added that Friday at the membership meeting. Just in case, for whatever reason, let's say it opens on a Thursday. You know, and it's a week before 4th of July, you're not getting any product, at least you'll have the Friday. So, and then we went 2 days a week right through the end of August.
Yep.
And then we went back to 1 day a week. So really, we're talking 2 months, 2.5 months that we're adding days that, you know,
so,
it's not there on John's schedule.
so for 2.5 months, 2 days a week. For
Yeah,
for 2.5 months,
Day in the beginning.
yep,
You pull that first day off and then you said.
nope,
No, we didn't do it.
they kept May,
We moved it.
so it'll be 5 possible days in May.
Alright, so.
So that's May, 1 day a week. And then you add the holiday.
We added the 22nd for the holiday.
So that's getting 1 day a week. Yeah, it's 20 days.
Then June, like I said, the first 3 weeks, 2 weeks in June are 1 day a week, and then it's
That's for the holiday.
right, then 17th, 19th of the, Father's Day weekend, and then the 24th, 26th, 28th is the week before the 4th. And that's when everybody goes on vacation.
So this could be 3 days, and it could be 3 days, but that's right before.
That's the week of.
Yeah, all right, yeah.
All right. So,
I don't think that.
so if we copy and paste proposal 1. Oh,
Yeah, you guys will 50%. So.
No, I know. You take the other days off, go out.
Actually, we might just allow them to take them. Yeah. That goes to 1 day a week.
That doesn't sound. I mean, hopefully you can kind of go back, yeah. And as long as we get any other things.
Yeah, we're not gonna do it. I just don't wanna take away from it. You know, if you guys wanna get to it,
We just worry about
okay,
2 days. You know what I mean? It hurt us a lot.
I'm doing this.
does anyone want to make the motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, no, all in one or nothing, see. So this schedule is the schedule from proposal 1. Is everyone seem like they're in agreement on this schedule?
I believe it's too aggressive, but
Okay,
that's my
okay,
take.
I think a vote, it sounds like we have two different camps. And we take a vote and
Okay.
that's where we're at.
Would you like to break this one up and have two separate votes? Because I can bring them both to the council.
I worry it's a little too aggressive for the rest of the council. Also, what is that, 1 week, 2, 1 week, 1.
Well, it's 21 days, no matter how you split it.
I don't know what it's gonna rain, you can,
No.
why don't you just go for everything, and then, just, pull the axe back.
Okay, it's 21 days, no matter what. It's just the difference of a schedule.
Yeah, okay. Sounds good.
You just might have, some weeks with 3 days that you can go.
Odds are, we're gonna lose 50% of any schedule we throw up there, regardless.
How long?
There's 40 days
Never,
here.
ever, ever
If
worked
we
out
get
the
half,
way
there's 20 days.
Never.
Very true, Jerry.
Yeah,
The first December opening, we got all 3 days in.
okay.
Okay, all right,
We didn't get any of the summer.
Yeah, we didn't get the
Yeah.
summer, but we got those 3 days in.
That's right.
okay.
Make the motion.
Thank you.
Please do.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion?
This is work in progress.
Yeah.
We're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
I'd like to have a stable summer.
Yeah.
Get a better understanding. But I think we should try to maximize the usage.
Okay.
Join our at the council meeting would be really good too.
Yes,
That
please.
definitely would.
Also, because I'm not gonna be there, so,
You're not gonna
but
be there?
you guys are gonna do great.
That makes me.
Okay, okay, so we have a motion, it's been seconded, I move to a vote, Brennan Beeka.
Yeah.
Dennis Sir.
Staying.
Dave G.
Yeah.
Jeff Grant.
Yeah.
John McDonald.
Yeah.
Belinda Sutton. Mike McGivney,
Yeah.
Ken Margot.
Yeah.
Jerry.
Yeah.
Roger.
Yeah.
Ed Triano.
Yeah.
Okay. The vote passes. Nine.
Dr. Beatty, guys, this is really good.
I think we're gonna work these things through. It was like that at the membership meeting. It's great to have everybody and like I said, work in progress.
Thanks for the win. Young guy, thanks for the win.
We gotta
Okay.
figure it out.
We're not completely done with Providence River. Recreation, if nobody has wants any changes to the status quo, we don't even have to vote, we can just have a vote by consent.
Status quo, it's open every day that it's open.
Okay, approved by consent. Okay, now we're done.
We're done with everything.
No. Now we Dave Fortune?
No. All right, the next
Oh.
item
Or no?
Enforcement.
is an enforcement proposal that we received for a time restriction in the Providence River, and I will let Jeff speak to this one.
Brought this up to some of you around the table last year around this time, I don't think there's much opposition to it. There's quite a few boats that are hanging out for an hour plus in the Providence River after it closes. We're getting constant calls that guys are digging up there, we go up, blast the area. Most of the time, we don't see anyone digging, but it's still a lot of effort from our guys still up there. I don't see any reason why guys can't move up past communicate. And that's enough.
And then pick out past.
Picking still?
You're not allowed to have unprocessed product more than, what's the rule, Jeff, like a 2 shots, 3 shots?
I don't, I don't see why there's any reason like that.
Yeah, you can't dig and dump.
Heard this from the fishermen and the divers especially, the 30 minutes is tough. 45 is what I've been hearing would be doable for a lot of the divers. Is that okay with you? Okay. Does anybody else have any thoughts?
So what, I mean, is this gonna be a fine? Is this gonna be write up stuff? Is this, I mean, how do you?
Yeah.
So it'd be, okay, you'd write them up for not leaving the area after 45 minutes.
Be a prohibition. After 45 minutes.
So they can be in A and B.
No, they can't, because they can't have unpicked stuff.
You
You can't leave there with unpicked stuff.
You have to be bagged and tagged when you leave area E. You can go fish in area A, but you have to have all your product bagged and tagged before you leave E.
Okay. In that.
So would this mean we would have to be south of the line at Connecticut after 30 minutes, or like steaming south towards Connecticut to get out of the area? Move it up to 45 and that out of here. I mean, it's not all.
So what would happen if somebody is there in 50 minutes? Would they have to dump everything that they have on board? Would they get a fine? Like, what would be the enforcement?
Yeah, well, correct. You're making your way out, but it's the same. One,
Everybody
you
else.
know, an hour plus, not on this stuff that you have.
Right.
Do the whole time.
I think to Jeff's point, if you're anchored up and you're still sorting stuff 50 minutes after noon, after 11 o'clock. So if you're approaching noon time and you got a pile of stuff, you're culling through. That's not good.
All right.
You actually move, you're all right. You know, once you're, if the guys are full of COVID, then it's really.
Yeah, they have to transfer back to get to you.
These guys have their rates broken down by then, right?
Yeah.
Good.
So, I mean, part of that is that here has to be still broken down.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious if there were guys that still had their rate together. Yeah, I don't know, I'm out of there right away.
Yeah, this is.
What is this one?
We just dump right on the floor.
Okay. All right, so this is a voting item, so if anyone from the panel feels inclined to make a motion on this,
I'll make a motion for 45 minutes.
okay, you already have it queued? Perfect. Do you have a second? Second by Dennis,
Is it 45 minutes?
she's gonna change it.
Yeah, no problem.
Are we gonna make the language so it's more concise? Like, you know, you must leave the area with all product and.
Well, the motion's
Okay,
been made and
thank you.
seconded behind you.
That was good, I second it.
No,
Yeah, my son saying, "Where's my dinner?" He just got a text. I told him I'd be home at 7. Thank
sorry.
God for canned food.
I'm sorry, okay, so this is the motion. Right? So we're recommending this language for the right, right? Okay. How does this look to you guys?
Wait a minute. Possession of quail hogs within the area shall be prohibited on scheduled days after 45 minutes? So if you're bagged and tagged, you're broken down and you're steaming out of the area, or almost to Connecticut,
We're getting towed in.
or you're getting towed because you break down,
Officer
Right.
discretion, right?
you're gonna get popped according to this language.
You said there's discretion, right?
I understand that, Dennis, but it says possession of quail hogs after 45 minutes. If you're
So-
getting told,
I'll speak for them, you have to write it for the likelihood of the abusers and then the.
understood, but
I support this, I'm good with it, but Jeff, I'd say if you set the guys up there at 11 o'clock. And went around and enforced the rules that are in there as far as having unculled product. And stuff, that would move the process along, but I do support this.
That'll work.
Vote.
I think the language should just add uncalled product. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Don't want people hanging out, because then they get calls.
Yeah, but the language is, it doesn't seem right. It's not one of them, but it's false.
If
If
you
you have
put on
people-
call, then
people-
people
if
can
it's
be in there with.
People that live like
Tag.
shoreline users.
I was talking up there and they got called, because I watched the EM come up and look at what I was doing and then leave, and I knew so it's because somebody had called on me, I'll call them chaps.
I mean, if they think that those people are digging, I mean, that's, up to them to be educated on what they're looking at.
Right. Would you say possession of uncalled for homes? Instead of, just possession of hogs, because that, again, you might have somebody that's, if it's this open area there, to Jim's point, every two officers is gonna interpret that differently. So if it's uncalled for hogs,
You get caught with anything after 45 minutes.
Yeah, what if you can, that's if you get, what if you try at 11?
what I'm saying is uncalled, right, the way it is now, but uncalled.
That's what I'm saying.
Or Dave. After 11 o'clock, when you go up to the hot club and have lunch, and then you're steaming back down through the area at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
That's not a.
Under
date-
that
that's not a date
scenario, you
schedule,
could be
Jim.
caught.
It's not a date schedule.
Oh, the hot club?
Oh,
Yeah.
We could maybe add a, transiting exception to it, I don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
I think some language would be helpful. I mean, there is the possibility you could leave the area, you could go up and save the bay for a meeting by boat. And you'd be transiting through at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, fully bagged and tagged, you were done at 11 o'clock. But under this language,
All the pool guys, remember Dean Leeds, and he would have a ball with that.
oh, I know, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm pointing up, Jerry. I think, Jeff, if there's, can be just some clarifying language here on the transit issue.
It's technically driving through Greenwich on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday on area E, you're gonna have more than 3 bushels, right?
That's right.
So that's,
Absolutely right.
so unless you take the transit part out,
I didn't initially put that transiting in there because we are always transiting through that area when it's in closed state. So, I mean, we've dealt with that in the past and it hasn't been an issue. Like Mike said, the same thing happens in Greenwich, so we will have transiting provisions on other shellfish regulations, so I think it's necessary, but you guys have.
Which is, it's right now, this could also affect recreational guys in the day.
No, it says it.
No, it just says commercial.
It doesn't say anything about being, we all know it's gonna be for commercial. But down the line, that we just put in there, no commercial fishing. Anybody commercial fishing, put that in there.
It'll fall under specifically the commercial regs, not the recreational regs.
All right.
Is it currently allowed to be calling after the area is closed? or
Yeah, there's no specification that it's not allowed.
Could we not say all calling must be done 45 minutes after the area is closed? So possession itself is not illegal, but like sitting there and calling for an hour is?
Well, we don't have culling as something defined in the regs.
okay?
45 minutes. Plenty of time.
Yeah, we would have to add it as a
Can I
definition.
say something about that?
Yep.
Now, you're saying possession of co-ops. Twice I towed people in, and I would have been over the one that I towed them in. So I was just go, what was it? The ramp there, Haynes Spot. Towed 2 people in the Haynes Spot. On my way back, I would have been out, going against the law.
To get to Mike's point again, you guys transit from Greenwich Bay every single day. You know what you're doing. We're not.
All I'm saying is you're saying, it doesn't say uncalled. So I would have got bagged for driving through the area, but I told somebody there. That's right? No, I did.
Then you're fine.
Oh, you changed it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I think it's to make it harder for shenanigans. Kind of comes down to, they're not gonna rough you up unless you're doing something stupid.
Question. How many individuals have you busted past the time up there? Is this a reoccurring problem? Or is this not really happening? Is this a phantom thing? How many people are really being popped for digging after the 11 o'clock? How many, or is this just a lot of people calling and if they're unsubstantiated?
Well, it's 3. I would get.
Only 3
My
people?
head, 3. But it's still, every time someone calls, we have to respond. You know, even if what I'm trying to say is that 45 minutes is plenty of time, make it 3 months. Get out of that area.
So for the most part, everyone's following the rules and regulations, they're getting out of there on time.
We're getting close, by the time we get up there and glass the whole area, everybody's good, but that's not to say that all is legit and somebody's really quick.
Yeah, you can, you still have to have a break and sandwich too.
Okay, all right, so do we have a motion? John,
Make a motion.
to recommend to the council the following time restriction proposal?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a second? Yep. I didn't see what we were on the motion. We didn't, nobody withdrew the motion, we just amended it, but we didn't even vote to amend, but
Yeah.
this is fine, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay, okay, all right,
It's late.
all right, we'll move to a vote. Brennan Beeka,
Yeah.
Dennis Irvin.
Yep.
Dave G.
Yep.
John McDonald.
Yep.
Mike McGivney,
Yay.
Ken Margo,
Yay.
Jerry,
Well,
he left,
yeah.
Roger,
Yes.
Ed Triano.
Yeah.
Right, we lost Jerry and we lost Jeff. Right, I think that was the last voting item.
Last item?
Dave, you still here? Is he there?
All right, I'll make this quick.
Oh, sorry. You're on.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I'll make this quick. So we have quite a bit of money available for shellfish transplants for this year. We have about 75,000, which means we can do at least a couple of transplants. We are scheduling, we have a meeting coming up, hopefully next week to start discussing the logistics of these transplants, but we wanted to get feedback from folks on areas that they'd be interested in seeing transplants occur. You know, we've done Greenwich Cove and Opnog recently. We've done shellfish testing in those areas and have information for that from last year. So this is just an opportunity for people to provide feedback on what they'd like to see. Mike, comments?
We've asked Dave G to work with Patrick from DEM, starting probably early March. It's up to you guys to kind of plan it. And we authorize so Dave, you know, is compensated for his days off of work to go in and thoroughly test or check these areas. Because a lot of times when we're doing sampling and stuff, it's just quick here and there. And that way we need to have a better understanding of the biomass in the closed areas that are available to us. For the West Bay, it's pretty much, you know, Warwick Cove, Apponaug Cove, and Greenwich Cove. I think Jeff, who just left, mentioned Brush Cove, I think to check. We'd like to see Greens River check too, as much to find out what's in there to do it. So we are working on that, and, you know, I'm really concerned because we had such robust transplants 15 years ago. And our lines have moved up so far that we need to keep a good biomass in those areas, especially Apponaug and East Greenwich. So the plan last year, when we were only doing 1 or 2 years, was we did Apponaug 2 years ago, and then we did Greenwich last year. It was like a rotating thing, and the idea of going back to Apponaug. So right now, we're kind of waiting to see what Dave comes up with Patrick, but currently we're thinking Apponaug for 1, and then to be determined for 2. The question is, we generally do this early in May because the moorings fill up, so that's always better to do it early. And you know, and now that we have a set day, probably we can schedule this. That was my concern in my email. If it was floating days in May, you know, you can't schedule a transplant.
Yep.
So the question that I posed to Anna is, do we want to try to fit 2 of them in 1 week, which would be May 7th and May 9th, which would be the Tuesday and the Thursday, or do we want to do them over a 2-week period, May 7th and May 14th? And that way you have a little more time. It's as much for us to decide as the Narragansett Bay Commission,
Yeah, exactly.
which we all work with as part of the process. So that's where we're kind of at on that one. Connor has asked that we put a portion of the catch in the spawner sanctuary this year. We need to determine from you what you're thinking. What we thought is that maybe the first one, like Appanog, is done like prior. You fish, you go and dump in designated areas that we agree upon with, fish, with enforcement. And then the second transplant, I'm thinking it would be best to hire a transplant boat. I was gonna talk to Ken maybe if his boat's available, how much it would be. And that, cause it's different if we're going to the spawner sanctuary to dump. You can't just let the guys race out there, and dump in one pile. The whole idea of the spawner sanctuary is to spread them out. So we need to know a percentage of what you're thinking. Jeff Grant had a great idea that we put the boat there, and the first 5 bags you catch, you get paid for them, and we're looking at $15 a bag. And it looks like with this kind of funding, the number will be way up, is what we can make. The last year was 17,000, I think.
Yeah.
So we're talking 37.5, for the 2 events. So we have a lot of money. And to get back to my point about and have everybody put their first 5 bags, that way everybody's contributing. Or whatever the number we come up with, Connor.
Yep.
And that boat is designated to go out and dump them in the spawner sanctuary. And the transplant will proceed like it had in the past. The rest of your bags, whatever they are, you go dump in your area.
Mhm.
So that's kind of where we're at on that one.
Yeah.
And please don't have a morning meeting.
I know, yeah, no,
Please.
I'm trying to find a way to get everyone on the evening.
No Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings.
Yeah, no, I hear ya.
Just a quick comment, so I purposely worked the agreement to be 25 too, so 2025. So if there's rollover funds, you don't have to like scramble, we can look for one in May 2025 as well. So just as you guys are planning.
Right, so it's almost unlimited as far as what we could catch.
Yeah, we're.
Or-
Yeah, that's.
I would love to, you guys pay something.
Enough participation and, just the Bristol area. is really-
I would love you guys to figure something out. I mean, basically, it's a simple run one where we didn't use buy boats. I don't think you use buy boats
No.
there. You pull up, they count them,
Yeah.
and you get paid. So I think that's if you guys, we've asked in the past, but there didn't seem to be a lot of.
Yeah, we
No.
kinda need to do it.
Yeah.
Robbie would be involved. Yeah, I mean, just, if we
You
get.
don't need a transplant because you move them real close unless you have another area that you want to access.
No, it would be from one side of the harbor. to the
Right.
other, so it's a short run, everybody could.
I would fully support doing something, maybe do that as the first one, I don't know, or the third, whatever. Mooring field or an issue with you
It's
guys.
not gonna suck up a lot of money, it'd probably be.
We fully support that,
Have they done transplants in Bristol Harbor in the past, recently?
We've done volunteers, we've done all the way back to the 80s.
Yeah, years ago, we.
I drove all the way over there.
Yeah.
One Norton scale.
We don't have a ton
Okay,
of
let's
people
hear
there to dig them from either, you know what I mean?
We dug them behind Costa's fruit land and we dug them the papa squash over there.
So I know you kept Katie on the CC list.
Yes,
On the
she's on
discussion
there.
for Katie,
Yep.
if you could come up with something.
Yeah, I
Between now and next week or whatever we're talking and.
So I won't be here and I won't be able to call in. Can I appoint John as like my proxy?
Sure, put them on the email thing.
Yep.
That'd be fine.
Yeah, I'll add you onto the list.
Cause it's really scheduled in NBC that's part of the, enforcement. I put you on the enforcement. I apologize for that thing, but I did put you on the CC this last one. Is 2 days, what's better for you guys? 2 in 1 week or every other week?
Doesn't matter. I would
Okay.
think earlier would be better, but
It's not, you're not having your gun safe. That's in the past, that's been a thing where everybody gets their certificate 1 week and they weren't available, but any schedule would come up, okay.
You don't need guns for us anyway.
No, the certification, it happens every year. I was told in May.
Torpedoes,
Yeah.
All right, let's get moving.
It's,
Oh, sorry.
area E, that north of, Gaspy Point, is that gonna be open for transplant?
No.
That would have to have further testing done. We don't have any samples that have been recently tested from there. Water quality wise,
That it'll meet the FDA guidance for controlled relay, but you have
Okay.
to grab sample, run.
yeah,
You have to do additional testing.
yeah,
For disease and stuff.
Yeah.
To your point, Mike, actually, that's one of the things I thought that, unfortunately, you gotta do more testing. And if we're gonna have a transplant with our boats, you're gonna need buy boats, which are expensive. So I thought maybe, once we get through the process with the fishermen, that maybe some funds could be put towards like dredging up there with the DEM boat but accessing that area seems to be a very important thing, especially with the information Dave just gave me. That's news to me. I thought that phase 3 was gonna open that area up for us, and it still may. But be careful what you ask for, like you said, with the dye stuff.
The only other issue to keep in mind is, where you move them to, like, these.
Yeah, we have, just like we did 3 years ago when we did the one, but you need buy boats too, and they're probably 1,000, I don't wanna spoil my talk with Ken. Yeah, I mean, they're up there now, especially, just the cost and stuff, and then on top of that, just anybody that did the Upper Bay transplant, when we did it, it blew a gale. And that's a bad place to be when it's blowing a gale. 2 hours later, it was calm. But the hour before it opened up, it was blowing 25, 30 knots, and it was difficult.
How do they instrument the testing? Is that in the works? Is testing, is metals, is part
Yes,
part
we
of
have
the
to-
plan?
yeah, depending on the area that we're gonna transplant from. So if we were to do Upper Providence River, we would have to send samples to a lab that could specifically test for certain kinds of metals. We would also test for neoplasia. That goes to Roger Williams. And then some of the sample tests can be run our Department of Health. So we just have to coordinate. Some of those samples take a little longer to process than others.
All areas need to be tested. The Upper Bay would be extra tested.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
One of the only other thing I'll say is with Greenwich, for example, we tested all the codes in the event that any one of the codes came back as possible.
Right, yeah, just in case. Right. So we did all 3. Guys are leaving, it's okay. We're doing the state has done on the commission on the lack of nitrogen in the bay and the effects it's having on the shellfish population. I mentioned earlier that they 75% of the nitrogen is being taken out that's going into the bay. So we're working on that, and we're basically trying to get the state to relax their permitting to allow more food into the bay, especially in the wintertime when the clams could really use it, because our contention is the clams, other than an area eating, they go to bed hungry, they wake up starving because there's just a lack of food, and that really affects. You're talking about the fertility of clams, and that's one of the ways that it gets affected is not having the food. So we're working on that. There's another meeting on the 26th. 27th, thank you, Jim. And we're trying to figure out and let them relax it. So thank you.
Right.
One thing, since like other matters, something maybe for next time we could bring it up as an agenda. One of the things that I have had a problem with is when we do the aquaculture applications, they come in with density tests, and the density tests are performed by people that are not fishermen. And I don't think that's right. I think that those density tests should be performed by a professional shellfishman or a fisherman of some sort in a non, so that way, a person that does this for a living is gonna have a lot better chances of catching, and give a better stock assessment of that area than no offense to people that work in the CRMC, but those folks that just go out and do a part-time.
Yeah.
So I would like to put that on as an agenda, discuss, and then maybe if that fisherman needs to get compensated, add that to the application process where the applicant would be responsible for that person. Yeah,
Yeah, I know it's been done in the past for certain
Right.
projects, so,
right, I think that should be.
okay. Yeah, Connor?
We didn't make progress on that. So we'll note it in the minutes.
Yep, it's in the minutes.
I'd like to talk to you about that because that's those, when we get those stock assessments in, for those applications, they never.
He was-
I don't feel about it.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, that number on the license.
Yeah, I'll email to you. Yeah, I have all that.
I'd
written
like,
down.
it's just good information. how to have
Absolutely, it's interesting,
Well,
too.
Okay.
Conversation.
Exactly. Yeah, I have a whole thing that I wrote up, a memo.
So do we have a date for next week's meeting or?
I'm gonna schedule that. Hey, we have one more item.
Guys?
Guys,
Hey, just quick, I want to let the SAP know that, the CRMC, Department of Health and DEM are working on modifying the Aquaculture Marine Species Act, which mostly affects aquaculture. There's a meeting next week on the 22nd to discuss the proposed changes, so the info's here if you're interested. It's here at the Bay Campus next week. That's it.
Thanks, Dave.
I'm okay with, but I don't like the way it's.
Oh,
It's part of the.
He's not,
I don't have a problem talking to him, but